Great. Let's call roll then.
Okay. Barbara Marshman.
Here.
Hold on, I just lost it. Christina Johnson. Dan Bazzodu. Dan Bazzodu. Elizabeth Monley.
Here.
Ellie Matsamura.
Here.
Enrico Callender. Frank Matesky.
Here.
Garrick Percival.
Here.
Jeremy Avila.
Here.
Jeremy Bruce.
Here.
Jose Posadas.
Here.
Len Dieppe.
Here.
Linda Lizotte. Louis Barosio.
Here.
Magnolia Siegel.
Here.
Maria Fuentes. Roshni Saxena. Sammy Robledo.
Here.
Sherry Segura. T. Tran.
Present.
Veronica Amador.
Here.
Yang Zhao.
Here.
Frederick Ferrer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Well, good afternoon or early evening to everyone. Thank you all for joining us. Other commissioners may be joining us late, but I wanted to get started. Tonight, we're going to do some work around what we've already done to make sure we're in agreement with where our work was from our last session. You asked for a work plan, so we're going to present to you a draft work plan tonight and get your feedback. I'd like us to be in this working mode of you ask and then we respond and then you give feedback, right? So you asked for a work plan. We've got a proposal for you tonight on a work plan. You'll give us more feedback and then we'll adjust as we go. I think the work plan should be a working document. It won't be something that ever kind of stops because we'll be adding to it and adjusting to it as we move forward. This evening, we will also go back and look at the summary of the agreements that we came to our last session around expectations. Again, we want to make sure that we've captured that accurately and get your feedback so we can continue to work under these working assumptions that these are the expectations we have, and our consultant has put them together for us in a format to be able to get your feedback around, yes, this is what we've said, yes, this is what we still agree to, and this is how we would like to move forward. At that time, I'd like to get us to work because we didn't join this commission to figure out how to organize it, but we want to get some work done. So tonight, I've asked our consultants to begin the process of really the rigor of inquiry, right? To spend time as a commission to really start this process of rigorously inquiring about the topic, the governance, the structure of governance, what does a charter do? And so we're going to start our presentations tonight about kind of Charter 101. What is a charter and what does it look like in San Jose and how does that work? And then outline the beginning of this notion of inquiry. I believe that we could have the council vote on the presidential election implications tomorrow, right? You don't need a commission to make decisions on the ideas that they sent to us. What I believe the council's intent is for us to study the questions and have a rigorous, engaged conversation about them in order to come up with the recommendations that we bring to them, but they will be informed by expertise, experience, the community's input. As we've studied this issue, here are the recommendations we come down to. And so tonight we begin that process, and as we go through the work plan, you'll see kind of what else we're thinking of, and we definitely need your thinking around what else we need to include. So that's our workload for tonight. We're going to start with one other item, but that's essentially kind of what I just wanted to lay out kind of what we're going to be doing tonight. Just as a process note, Our consultant Lawrence and I meet. We're going to be meeting in the off week to organize, to listen to what you have said, to organize the meeting in response to what you've said. So we've spent some time organizing, planning, and starting into the work. And so he and I operate off an annotated agenda so that we've figured out the timing and who's doing what to organize our meetings. So hopefully they can be run efficiently and be effective in being able to make sure that we get the work done and that everyone is heard and everyone feels heard, and yet we also continue to move forward. If there's a time when I'm off and that there's a challenge to our thing, it's like we're going too fast or too slow, I'm certainly open to feedback. So, but this is the process by which we've started, and tonight will be a good test to see how well our process is working, and if it needs to get tweaked or adjusted, I'm certainly open to that as well. Okay, so tonight let's start with the first item on the agenda tonight is the election of a vice chair, and the vice chair of the commission essentially has one major role, and that is to take the place of the chair if the chair is not present. And so as we kind of look through what does that mean, what do you really need to do, I think that I'd suggest the following. A candidate to be the vice chair should be able to understand procedure, understand how to run a meeting, how to resolve conflict, how to stay on time, and how to stay unbiased in some ways to be able to make sure that the discussion as it moves forward, everyone's heard and it's not based on one person's perceptions only. And I, as I identify as a man, I would suggest that we elect, volunteers or nominations come forward for someone who identifies as a woman in the sense of equity to make sure that we kind of model our behavior that we're looking for. So that's going to be my suggestion, is that your nominations or volunteering come in terms of a woman who understands procedure, running a meeting, keeping us on time, and resolving any conflicts around time and staying unbiased to continue to facilitate the meeting. We're going to run the shortest campaign in the history of US politics tonight, and I'm going to ask for nominations or to volunteer. At that point, if we have more than one person nominated or volunteering, we will have each candidate will get a 2-minute stump speech to just tell us a little bit about why you'd like to serve as the vice chair, and then we're going to have an election. So we're going to have the whole campaign all in the next 6 minutes probably. So do I see anyone who would volunteer to be vice chair or would like to nominate someone to be vice chair? The pay is really good, let me tell you. So,
Mr. Chairman, this is Rick Callender. I apologize, my camera doesn't seem to be working. I'll have to go out and come back in. But I'd like to nominate Christine Fell.
okay, and I'm not seeing Christine. Oh, Christina, there she is. Great. Christina, do you accept the nomination?
I accept the nomination.
Okay, awesome. Any other nominations or anyone else want to volunteer?
Looks like Fred, we've got Magnolia and Veronica.
Hi, I'd like to nominate Ellie Matsumura.
Ellie, would you like to, would you accept the nomination?
I'm very flattered, but interested in supporting Christina, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And Veronica, did you want to?
Yes, I actually also want to nominate Ellie. So, but since she did not, then we'll also nominate Christina.
Awesome.
And then it looks like we have Luis too.
Okay. Yes, my nomination is intended for Commissioner Matsumura. I read her memo, and I felt that she would be up for it. But if not, then I also second Christina.
Okay. So Christina is the nominee. Is there any others? Okay. Anyone who is, let's do this by consent. So all those that,
Oh, point of order, this is Tony. We do need to take public comment before we vote, and I do have to do a roll call vote.
okay. So having one nominee for the role of vice chair, is there anyone in the public that wishes to address the commission on the election of the vice chair?
Okay, I have two names. I have Alina Yin first.
Awesome.
Hi, I don't have a comment on the vice chair, but I do have a comment on the process. Is this the right time to do that, or do I need to speak at another time?
Is it the process for the vice chair nominations?
No.
You would do that under open forum.
Okay, I will wait for open forum. Thank you.
Second speaker?
Hold on. The second one is Tessa Woodmansey.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, this great process. Thank you so much. I love the Zoom. I love looking at everybody. And the only thing is I didn't see Rick Callender when he nominated. I guess he's on the list of somebody, but I don't see him. So maybe some people are not shown as who's on the call, who's on your commission or something. Is that how it works?
Just for clarification, Commissioner Callender was on the call. He's having video problems.
Oh,
He's going to be
okay.
switching back in.
But he is on the commission.
Yes,
I
he's
see.
on the commission.
Oh,
and
okay. I
he's on
guess
the
you can
call to
look
make the nomination.
at participants and stuff like that and see that or whatever. Okay, no, you're doing a great job. I'm so happy that I can, have a comment. That's great. But I think you're doing fabulous, and we appreciate the Zoom meetings. We love Zoom meetings, and thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers from the public?
Marie Arnold.
Hello?
Go ahead. Go ahead. You're on. She muted herself. Marie, you muted yourself.
I'd like to nominate Barbara Marshman because she has been a good moderator for our pros and cons with the League of Women Voters. I think she'd be a good person.
Okay, thank you. Blair Beekman.
Hi, is this a time for general overall public comment?
No, this is the comments on the vice chair.
On the approval of vice chair process?
Of the nomination of the vice chair and subsequent election of the vice chair.
Okay, so this won't be a time for general public comment, so I will, I guess I don't need to speak at this time.
Thank
Correct?
you. Yes.
Thank you.
That's the last public speaker.
Great. If you're ready for the question, then the roll can be taken.
Barbara? Yeah, this is the time to vote yes or no for.
Sorry, I had muted. Yes, my vote is yes.
Thank you. Christina? Dan Bizzuto? I will be calling people who were absent just in case they popped on after the initial roll call. Elizabeth Monley? Elizabeth?
Yes, yes, sorry.
Ellie Matsumura?
Yes.
Enrico?
Aye.
Frank?
Yes.
Garrick?
Yes.
Jeremy Avila?
Yes.
Jeremy Bruce?
Yes.
Jose?
Yes.
Lund,
Aye.
Linda Lazat, Lewis,
Yes.
Magnolia,
Yes.
Maria, Roshni, Sammy,
Yes.
Harry, T,
Yes.
Veronica,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Frederick.
I don't vote unless there's a tie, so
Oh, that's right. That's right. Got it. It's unanimous.
thank you, and congratulations, Christina, and thank you for accepting the position as vice chair of the commission. I appreciate that a lot. Okay, our next item is the review of the work plan, a document that you have had. And I'm going to walk you through the document that you received. It's the San Jose Charter Review Commission work plan, starting with the commission structure, commission directives, process approach, meeting schedule, and footnotes, and members of the public that are following along. I'm just going to walk you through the document. You obviously can read the whole thing. I don't want to, I'm not going to spend all the time doing that. The goal here is for you to be able to give us feedback and additional input. We're not going to edit it tonight as a group, but if you give us the feedback, then we can take that back and bring it back to you the following meeting. Again, this is a working document, so it's going to change every time, but at least to give you the framework of the work and what we're proposing. So the structure really is the structure that the council has laid out. So that is not something we made up. We now have a vice chair to add to our working document. So the work plan is going to be adjusted in that way already. And then the commission directives. So we've outlined the 4 major points of specific recommendations that the council has asked us for. And then number 5 is to consider the additional measures, potential charter amendments as needed that will improve the accountability, representation, and inclusion at San Jose City Hall. So these 4 items are items that are fairly specific in terms of the council wants our recommendations. And then the 5th one is a more encompassing one of saying what else is really important to this commission. So those, again, the directives come from council in the memo that we received at the formation of the commission itself. We think that the 3, in general, the 3 big items or the 3 big areas that we will be studying are first, the government structure, which is really items number 1 and 2. The timing of the elections is really number 1 and 2 in terms of the mayor elections and the district elections. And then number 3, which is the additional potential charter amendments that we might consider and bringing to recommendations to the council.
Fred, just a quick note that that second bullet there should be numbers 3 and 4. I'll edit that in the next revision, but timing of elections is numbers 3 and 4 above, and then that third bucket would be number 5 in the list above.
Thank
Apologies
you.
for that.
Thanks, Lawrence. Okay, and then the next page, page 3, talks about the process or approach. So I'm suggesting with our consultants that we have a 3-phase approach to our commission. First is really the study phase, where we really are studying as a commission, what does a charter look like? What does it act like? What is it functions, a little bit of the history, kind of really getting down into understanding our own charter. What does the City of San Jose Charter look like? And so that we have a common understanding, a common experience of learning about the structures. We could also look at other models, look at other cities, have expert testimony of folks who have really studied these issues. So really spend our time in this first phase in study. So kind of a rigorous inquiry about charters and governance structures, as we kind of not that we don't look at those very specific first three items, but that we really are looking at charters themselves, so that these items are in context to a broader understanding of governance structures and charters themselves. The second phase is really to go deep then, once we have a common understanding, a common experience of kind of education and inquiry, to having our discussions, and then the first phase would conclude with a public hearing, so that the public has heard similar things of what we've heard. The public has studied this question alongside of us, and we listen to the last expertise is really that of the community. So we hold a public hearing to make sure that we've heard from experts, we've seen other cities and other examples, we've looked at governance, and then we hear from the public in phase one. In phase two, we then look at the actual structures and we get into the discussion and really start to get in the weeds around this very specific directives from council. Again, at that time, we would understand there's other measures that we want to look at, there's other things that we want to have discussion around, and then we would have at least 2 more public hearings to make sure that as we start to formulate our thinking around these different items, that we really are hearing from the public. We put public hearing 2 and 3. We may decide that we want more than that, or we want different forms of public engagement, but I'm just putting these down as kind of markers to get us through this idea, this concept of what the plan would look like. And then phase 3 is really, we start to think about our discussions and start to make our recommendations, and the consultants will be writing the majority report, minority report if there's one, and those items will be kind of put into the report, which is a summary of all of our work and our recommendations. It's that time when the commission's work, I think, takes on kind of another round, which is, this is all good when we're all in discussion, but then when it actually gets into the report, commissioners will have strong understanding together, and then we can hear from you in terms of what the specific report says and how it tone, its comprehensiveness, lots of questions that could come down at the report writing itself. So there's inquiry, and then the second phase is really the discussion, and then the third phase is really the recommendations and the feedback on the report itself. You suggested and agreed last time that we would be meeting every other week, and so we have kind of outlined, again, just to get outline on paper, to give you a straw poll kind of proposal, these 3 phases and some dates around them. We've also started to tentatively throw in some of the topics that our consultants and I have been thinking about that we need, but of course, there'll be a lot more filled in from you as commissioners to be able to say, oh, we need to talk to these people, and this report's important, and that example is important for us. So we together are learning along with our public to be able to enter phase 2. We have a list of dates there for phase 2, and then our public hearings. Again, we just put down to be determined in terms of dates and locations and access and all the different questions that we'll ask to make sure that we have inclusive and good outreach and inclusion around our public hearings. And then phase 3, we're talking about in terms of the report, our editing and feedback and comments on the report to get the report right. And this brings us to the conclusion of our work by the end of July. And so this is a plan. This is a work plan. This is a suggestion. This is our first draft. And then the specific structures and stuff are examples of some of the discussion we would have. So I'm going to,
And Fred, if I could just make a quick comment.
yes.
I want to reinforce that this is a living document. You know, we'll be updating this as we go and be posting new work plans as we revise and add new topics. To that point, our schedule is already a little bit off. Tonight, we'll be moving up the Charter 101 discussion to the January 25th meeting from February 8th. So this is going to be very dynamic. Just want to let you know that that'll be part of this process, is continually updating this document as we go.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to then ask for the commissioners to respond. And Tony, I don't have the list with me. If you would do me a favor and call the roll. Each commissioner has up to 2 minutes. Give us your feedback, your thoughts. What are the things that you want us to make sure we think about? Are you thinking this is a good direction? Where are you in terms of your feedback around our proposed draft beginning of our work plan?
And I'll be timing 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Barbara Marshman?
I'm going to pass at this point. It's all a little bit overwhelming, and I would like to hear some of the other comments. I may raise my hand later to come back.
Elizabeth Monley?
I think I'm going to pass too at this point. Sorry about that, but I want to hear some more comments as well. Thank you.
I'm going to go back to Christina. I had her marked as absent, but I see her name on the list right now.
I'm feeling really overwhelmed with everything as well, so I'm going to pass on my comments for now.
Ellie?
Thank you so much. And I'm wondering, just since I put together a pretty detailed memo and folks are overwhelmed, I want to make sure to be able to explain what's in there. Is it possible to have 3 minutes instead of 2?
I yield my time to Ellie.
Oh, that's thoughtful. Thank you. I hope, is that in accordance with how the chair and consultant were envisioning this?
Let's go
Do
ahead,
you wanna-
Ellie. Sure.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you very much to Lawrence and Civic Makers and any others who are involved in preparing the recommendations, including Fred, of course, because this is really complex content and we're trying to, figure out kind of our path across terrain that we're also trying to map at the same time. I wanted to thank the person who did really detailed notes. That was helpful too, just to remember our conversation from last week, and to everybody who read the memo, just because I know everyone has other obligations, so I appreciate that too. Thank you, Fred, for the walkthrough. That was also very helpful. I think this 3-phase approach makes a lot of sense. The explanation was helpful. And I also really appreciate the point around the work plan being kind of a working document. And having listened to how Fred was talking about it, it seems to me like a lot of the recommendations are around ways to potentially bring the work plan more in line with some of the spirit of what you laid out. I'd say the bottom line of what I hope we can accomplish with our feedback tonight is really putting public engagement at the center of how we work as a commission, which starts with, how we craft our outcomes and topic areas and work plan. And so in order to do that, the 3 main changes that I'm proposing are adding a session next week on effective public engagement strategies, just so that we're not waiting a moment longer to really have a dedicated conversation about that. Making sure that we have our first public meeting, hearing before a meeting at the end of phase 1, and then using the final meeting or meetings at the end of phase 1 to define our commission outcomes and topic areas, and adopt a work plan that's really designed to accomplish those. And that was drawing from other commissioners' points last week about beginning with the end in mind. I definitely appreciate the point about flexibility of the work plan. I agree and think that we should build that in while also having, it's that balance of flexibility and predictability so that the public knows what we're talking about and so that we really have a clear plan to get done what we need to get done. Other major points are just we'll be learning a lot both from the public and all our study materials. So to sort of implement this idea of flexibility is making sure that our agenda legally at each meeting allows us to add important items to future agendas as needed, as well as just to keep a running list of lessons and ideas that should shape our phase 1 deliverable. Sounds like that's very much in the spirit of what Fred and Lawrence and others were envisioning. I just want to, we're having a lot of flexibility in this process, and I appreciate that. And then I also know we've got the Brown Act and the sunshine policies of the city and everything like that. And so, we do need some decisions to be really clear. So how do we balance that? Other than that, action items in the memo aim to update various parts of the plan in accordance with those ideas, ask staff to sort of share their full research and rationale for every recommendation so that we benefit from the fullness of their thinking and knowledge, and incorporate just some other points from council directives and seems important to me from our previous meeting. So
that's 3 minutes, Ellie.
Thank you. Are you wanting to do motions on this, Fred? Do them now, do them later? How are you planning to?
I'll take those later, Ellie, because I want to hear from everyone, but we'll definitely come back to actions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enrico?
All right, just a few comments. I do like how the phases are laid out and thought out. I'm happy that you have the additional measures and potential charter amendments, because there are some things which aren't listed in the governance structure, the timing of the elections, that I do have some things that I'd like to make sure we're bringing forward. So I do think the third item is a catch-all, and I like the approach overall, and including the studies and being able to move forward, as well as the public hearings. The one thing I do want to caution against is I know that we have phase 3 where we're reviewing the draft reports and public hearings and approving the final reports that will be going to council, and especially right now during COVID. July is a very strong vacation month for families, and as the world opens back up, I want to make sure that people are not competing with the July being the vacation month. So we may want to explore that. Is it July, or do we push it into August when schools and everything are back in sessions and families are hopefully back, back around and not on vacation? So just something to think about. Right now, I think it's fine, but I think we should be looking at that so we're not competing with the fact that we know that, and I believe council even shuts down in July as a vacation month. We should probably mirror that of the council versus moving off on our own. That's it.
Frank?
Yes, I'm also kind of in a listening mode, trying to get up to speed, but just a couple comments. One, I just want to apologize. I don't know why my camera's not working, but I'll try to figure that out by the next meeting. And two, just want to build a little bit on what Rick said in terms of that item number 3, the additional measures, because I hope that we don't just automatically jump to structure as maybe dealing with some of these issues, because maybe other parts of the document may be more stronger in terms of trying to resolve some of the issues of the mayor and council. So I just want to make sure that we're open-minded to that as well. That's it.
Garrick?
Thank you very much. I think overall this looks really fantastic. I just want to, I guess, offer some of my perspective later. As some of you know, that I'm a professor of political science at San Jose State. So I do have some perspective that is maybe valuable in terms of some of the bigger picture things. I know many of you come with extensive experience in both government and outside of government. So I look forward to learning from all of you as well. But I've heard mentioned a couple of times that sort of the importance of trying to listen to experts on some of these topics. I'm certainly happy to bring my expertise, knowing that of course there's lots of other people outside that we would, I think, benefit from talking to as well. So these things are just generally, government structures are not things that most people think about on most days, so it is a steep learning curve for a lot of folks. And it can be, there's lots of sort of nuanced differences between these things that we're talking about. So we can sort of get into that, I guess, a little bit later. But also that just sort of between these, 4 to 5 major points, often as you get into these, Lisa so as I've had some experience with, they kind of meld into other issues that I think we'll probably need to address at some point. But the core points I think are right on. And so I'm looking forward to working on those. So thank you.
Jeremy Avila.
Thank you. Well, I will echo what Garrick and Rick have said with respect to the layout. It's nice to know that this is a living document that we'll be able to revisit because I think, as we all know, things come up. So I'm happy to see that. I don't have really anything else to add except that I would just say first, thank you to Ellie for that helpful primer on everything, because it is a lot of content, as folks have mentioned. And I would just say thank you to those who helped prepare this. There's obviously a lot of thought and effort and intentionality behind it, looking ahead and breaking it down into these constituent parts so that we're able to meet this task. I think will be very helpful.
Jeremy Bruce.
Thank you, Fred, for the walkthrough, and thank you to Lawrence and Civic Makers for your great work around putting this work plan together. I'd like to echo some of my colleagues in just saying that, you know, the breakdown of the 3 phases into the study, the discussion, and then the report phase is extremely helpful. Grouping them, you know, from the responsibilities, you know, around government structure, then the grouping of the timing of the elections, and then additional options for measures or charter amendments really breaks it down and makes it really easy. I also, you know, when the discussion comes later, I will be supporting a motion to adopt the recommendations in Commissioner Matsumura's memo, you know, maximizing the public engagement approach and setting around more of our outcomes and topics at the end of phase 1 would be extremely beneficial to this group and the work that we're striving for. So I will be supporting that when the time comes.
Lun.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to start by saying I think I wasn't clear that we were having a meeting today until right before. So I think we might have lost a few commissioners because we did agree to every other week, but it wasn't clear to me that we were commencing that, you know, 2 weeks from the last meeting. There was one commissioner who said she had a class and it seemed we might have shifted a missing week so we could accommodate her. So I think we might be missing some commissioners because of that. To the point at hand, I do think that this document captures adequately what the council was talking about when we tried to form this commission. I was previously on the council, so kudos to that. In terms of the timeline, I'm you know, willing to go with the group. I have no particular deadline or anything, although I think the council might. So to the point about July being an off month for the council, that's true, and that's all well and good. I don't know what the council need is in terms of, do they need to vote on this in August, so we need to get it to them by July, or what the case may be. I would look into that. I believe whatever recommendations we propose and the council will need time to discuss, chew on, and then potentially put them forth to the voters in the 2022 election. And so there's some timeline to work backwards in terms of, you know, that process. So I don't know if that caps us at the end of July, or, you know, if we extend to October even, that just means the council has less time to discuss and debate. So I put that out there. And then, and the issue of public comment, I think we should, you know, of course, open this process up and get public comment. We make time for public commenters, but I think it's also important for us to remember that, or at least consider that this process should reflect the thinking of the group. And so to the extent that we each have questions and things that we want to learn about, we should explore those. But I don't think it would be helpful to the council to have a document that is just kind of blot test of a public sentiment.
That's
The
2 minutes,
23 of
Lynn.
us are going to debate and discuss. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Just a quick point there. In the work plan at the bottom of page 2, we've noted in the directive that December 14th, this commission has been directed to submit recommendations on the above. So you do have a date for a deadline, as it were, December 14th of this year. Thanks.
Linda? Linda, you're muted. There you go.
There you go. So just a couple of process questions. Tony, is it possible for us to privately get a cell phone number for you on the days of these meetings?
Yes, I'll email that out.
Yeah, I spent 20 minutes trying to get in on the Zoom link that's on the front page of the agenda, and went through all the different Zoom links that are in the documents until I finally saw that you sent something out via email today. So that may be why some people are missing as well. So that'd be very, very helpful. I think where we're going is good. I appreciate what Fred and Lawrence did to sort of set the work plan, sort of breaking it up into the governance and then the election, and then the final thing being some additional things. I think that once we go through the mayor council issue, and then the election and the strong mayor and how that's going to all work out, I think we will probably hit or discuss some of the issues that will improve accountability, representation, and inclusion, which is the last one that the council said we could look at. I want to agree with Lan. I'm a former council member, and I could tell you that if we get too far afield in looking at the charter, I suspect that there's 1 or 2 people who are probably going to scour the charter and try to find things that need to be changed. But if we get too far afield from these issues that the council is looking for right now, they're not going to be really discussed that much. I spent 15 years on General Plan Task Force, and the minute you start to deviate too far from what the council is looking for input, you lose some of them. So I think it's very important that we stick to what they're looking for information on, or a sense of where the changes should be, and then roll that into those sections of the charter that reference accountability, representation, and inclusion.
That's 2 minutes, Linda.
I think we're going to, just miss the mark, as Lan said, is going to be too much for them to really ponder at this juncture. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Louis?
Thank you. This is Luis Barocio. Thank you, Commissioner Fred and Lawrence from Civic Makers. I think it's been stated that the way that you laid it out, it's pretty concise and very to the point. And I think future documents would benefit from that layout. I think keeping it in that way with the use of the outlines and the bold is not only good for us commissioners, because we're going to be going through a lot of documents, but it's also good for the public, for them to know what are the key essential areas that we'll be reading, we'll be looking at, we'll be discussing and unpacking. And also, I love the spirit of it in terms of it being responsive to not only the commissioners' perspectives. Obviously, there'll be 23 of us with things to contribute to the team, but also it's going to be responsive to the times and to the public. And with that, I also do appreciate some of the bullets in the memo from Commissioner Matsumuro. I think there's things that we can incorporate in there, from there, in terms of strategy on how do we get more of our public engaged in this process. Obviously, we're here to put forth our best thinking, and our best thinking comes from everyone's thoughts and putting it in a nice like format for the council. So I look forward to that. So just appreciation across the board. Thank you.
Magnolia?
Hi. So really quickly, the documents that we're looking at, is that something the public has access to?
Those were posted last week.
Okay, so I just want to let everyone know who's listening. It's actually the website. It's on sanjose.legistar.com, legistar.com, and it's under the legislation tab, which is different than the charter review area that you can also find on the website. So I just wanted the public to know where the documents are.
Hi, this is Tony. It's actually not the legislation tab. It's in the calendar. If you open the agenda.
Okay, that's where I just saw it, under the legistar.com. So I just want to make sure that anybody who has bothered to come here can actually knows how to find these documents that we're looking at. So, okay. And then my point was, my comment is, I would like to know at which point we will volunteer for figuring out who wants to do research on which portion. I think we should all do some independent research as opposed to just, maybe we should take input, obviously, from all sources, but are we going to divide that up? And if the members of the public want to also do some of the research, how can they amongst themselves figure out, who's volunteering for which portion, and how do they get that to us so we can consider it as well? So it really is a community process. That's just the part I'm unclear about right now.
There is a charter review website. Hi, this is Tony Tabor, City Clerk. There's a charter review website that links to the agenda that has the documents, and then additional documents will be added on there as we do research. And as we pull things, I'll be putting those documents on the Charter Review Commission website, so you guys can all find it without having to create your own folders and save things in all sorts of different places. So we're creating a central location on the website for all of these documents.
Okay, Tony, who's next?
Sorry, I wasn't sure if Magnolia was done.
Oh, no, I'm done. That's
okay.
My only point is I would like the commissioners to maybe divide some of the work if they want to do it that way.
Okay, next is Maria.
Hello, I had a similar problem as Linda getting over here, so I might have missed this if this was covered before. Thank you, first of all, for putting these two documents together, and I mean the original draft of our work plan, and then also I also really appreciate Ellie for what you put together for us, because in reading these together, I actually think there is a strong connection between what all of us were talking about at our first meeting of the things that we want to accomplish. And somehow, along with what the comment Jeremy made earlier, I'm also going to support that we include what Ellie provided. How that happens, I don't know, because I also recognize the simplicity of the work plan itself, and you want to have something that's clear and direct, while at the same time, I think Ellie gives really good guidance. And the one thing that I support what she has brought to our commission, and also support figuring out, okay, how do we bring those two things together? The one thing I really want to emphasize is that I believe when we were talking at our first meeting, many of us emphasized the importance of inclusion, diversity, and really reaching out into the community. And I would really like to see that be further developed in our plan, because I I think it's critical that we have community input and I don't want to call it hearings, but community outreach events in every district, so that we do reach our large city in that way. And those are my main points right now. And but number one, I do want to make sure that the spirit and the things that we talked about together as a team in our first meeting are very evident in the next draft of the work plan.
That's 2 minutes, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sammy?
The format's fine. Maybe one thing is posting it on Zoom so we can see and follow exactly where you're at. But other than that, the content and the format's fine for me.
Jerry?
Yeah, so I was the one that had a bit of a conflict. So this is exactly 2 weeks after, so I still had my class tonight. So I apologize for jumping in a little bit late. I know it should work out in the future. I looked at the document. I feel like it's an organized way. Magnolia, I certainly appreciate breaking up research. I do a lot of research in my current role. Professionally, and I think maybe doing a little bit of breaking up in that research will be a good idea as well.
Tran?
Yeah, so first off, my sincere thanks to staff for getting this together. I think for me, initially, the game plan seems pretty structured. It seems to make sense. I just wanted to reiterate again that given how Lawrence just mentioned, gosh, about maybe 10 minutes ago, about the deadline being December 14th, we seem to have a little bit more flexibility in our hands. So with that in mind, just, we can go at the pace that we feel comfortable with. We're not going to feel pressure to have to settle everything in whatever scheduled meeting that we currently have it for. So looking forward again to just hearing what everybody has to say. I'm particularly excited to hear the commentary from Garrick. It's been a couple years since I was in his political science class at San Jose State, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
Veronica?
Great, thank you so much. And I also want to address that thank you to the staff and thank you to our chair for really going over and putting this process a lot simpler than it is. I do appreciate that. And I also want to mention that I want to echo Commissioner Matsumura and her memo. I also agree when it comes to public engagement, but let's not just forget about public engagement and the barriers when it comes to language. Currently, right now, this meeting is not being offered in other languages. And, knowing that in San Jose, we have about almost half, if not more than half of the people that might speak more than just one language, right? And so I really want to, if it's something that we can do and offer not just the meeting in a different language, but also the documents, if they can be translated, that would be very helpful as we try to engage our communities, as we're trying to engage and get more people to be involved in this inclusion and equity and equitable process. So I really want to, let's not forget about language. It becomes a barrier when we're trying to reach out. So thank you so much.
Young?
Yeah, the structure looks to me makes a lot of sense, and thanks, because this is all new to me, but I like the structure. I have a little bit concern about the pace because the schedule seems pretty overwhelming, especially the study to someone has never been involved in government structures. We probably need more study time. That's all.
That was the last one. Back to the chair.
There were a couple people that passed, Barbara and others, or anybody that passed earlier. Is there anybody who has anything else to add? Barbara, go ahead.
Thank you. Going first is difficult sometimes. I wanted to, a couple of questions, but I wanted to get back to Magnolia's idea of having the commissioners actually do research. And I wondered if that is something that normally is done in these kinds of commissions, or is there a delegated staff research only? And that's all I'll say. Thank you for the staff. I mean, I think the basic structure of this is wonderful. It's hard for me to see how it will proceed at this pace, but I think the basic work is really good. I am curious about the research idea.
Thank you, Barbara. Anybody else that passed that wanted to come back? Christina.
So I really like the phased approach. I want to thank you for putting that in there. It made it easier to understand what was going on. I think July 26th is a really ambitious timeline, especially if research is going to be done. And we want as much community input as possible to make the process transparent. I think the 26th is really happening really quickly. And I also wanted to echo my fellow commissioners in supporting Commissioner Matsumura's memo. I think there's a lot of good recommendation here that will be more inclusive and allow for more community input. So I would support that memo being incorporated into this work plan as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Anyone else that had passed earlier? Elizabeth? You're on mute. You're on mute. Elizabeth, you're on mute.
Sorry. Just to clarify, will we be hearing from consultants throughout this as we hear about other city structures and give us the basis for our understandings, and also have the city attorney available to us for various understandings throughout our studies? How's that going to work?
Yeah, so Tony, I'd like to ask you to describe the staff that's assigned to this commission and what the capacity of that staff or bandwidth is. And then I'm going to ask Lawrence to talk a little bit more about the contract with Civic Makers in terms of what their scope of as consultants are, just for now clarity, because I think it really, it's an important kind of question to start. Tony?
Hi, so you have 2 staff people assigned to this commission plus an attorney. Mark Vanny is the attorney. He's been over in the attendees. I just promoted him to panelist in case he wanted to speak. From the city clerk's office, you have myself, and then you have Megan Rochi. This is her first meeting today. She just went through HR orientation today, so she very little training. She had a quick overview of how to unmute people on attendees. So Megan will be your staff person. She's also the staff person for redistricting. So she'll be creating your agendas, minutes, and she'll be at all of these meetings. We do have some capacity for research. We have had, like, Board of Fair Campaign and Political Practices. Sometimes their subcommittees do independent research and then bring it and present it to the commission as a whole. So it's not unprecedented to have commission members do research. We are still seeking student interns in the political science arena. I've reached out to several professors at San Jose State to see if they have students who would be interested in being interns for this commission to do research. The professors got back to me, but I haven't had any students apply. So if you know students who are into political science or going for a master's of public administration or anything like that, who would be interested, please send them my way, give them my email address, and we can get them on board as an intern, and then we would be able to provide more resources to you as far as research goes.
Thank you, Tony. And Lawrence, you want to talk a little bit about the contract with Civic Makers?
Sure. Yeah. We have been brought on board to support Fred in developing agendas for these meetings and also facilitating conversations in which he should step aside as chair to be a neutral participant in discussions so that this is a fair and transparent process. In addition, and then we'll be also taking not the action minutes, but process minutes, the minutes that some of you have referenced from our first minute were taken by Marielle, who is also on the call here, you'll see. So there'll be 2 of us on each call. We also have a scope in our contract to do some analysis, summaries, and reporting. So initial research and data provision, analysis and recommendations, and obviously the majority and minority reports. So that might look like the presentation I'm going to give today about the basics of city charters and kind of some of the historical grounding of what the legal foundation of a charter is from the state of California, which I think might address some of your some of the concerns that have been brought up and also help us level set, because recognize that there are different people with different types of experience in this realm. So our role really is to help support that. And then we'll also be contacting and scheduling experts to attend some meetings down the road. So if we decide that we want to have someone from Detroit speak about their statement of values that was included in the city charter, we'll do that. So that's going to all be, again, fluid, dynamic, and dependent on what you all share with us. And we'll wrap up today just to talk a little bit about the questions you have that'll help to guide us moving forward. So happy to be here. Hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Lawrence. And Tony, could you answer a question? Can we take motions and take action at this time, or do we have to have posted motion or actions on our agenda?
We've agendized this as discussion and possible action on the charter review topics and scheduling. So you can take action on the topics and scheduling.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was hoping. Okay, so let me respond a little bit, not to the point by point, but just in terms of process. The staff is me and Lawrence, right? So the work plan came from us. The challenge that I think that what some of you pointed out is, how do we keep a work plan that's, you know, a document that's balanced around clear, and I get the understanding, kind of a high level. And then how do we get to a work plan that has the detail and the nitty gritty in it? And so we started with just a basic outline of, this is kind of the skeleton of a work plan. And we wanted to hear tonight from you around, okay, fill in this skeleton, really give us a lot of the, put more of the meat on the bones here. I did suggest on purpose that the timeline be aggressive. So the July piece was kind of my, I'll throw it out to you to see where you go with it. And I don't think we probably would hit a July deadline, but I really didn't have more, I didn't want to put more stuff in there unless we really heard from you. So now hearing the thoughtful commentary and the additional ideas and things that you'd like to include, the next draft of the work plan will definitely be filled out more, and I guarantee you we won't be finished in July. So I think that we're trying to get it just a basic work plan to you, because that's what you had asked for. And so at this time, and so everything, all the comments that you've made tonight, all of those comments will go back to us to rework, to figure out where it fits in and kind of put it together. So I don't want anyone to feel like their comments were not addressed. If, you know, like, we don't have to have a motion on every single item. We'll definitely have heard and recorded all of your thoughtful comments, and we will definitely engage and incorporate all of them into the next version of the work plan. I'm going to ask that, Ellie, if you want to make a motion, I certainly will, I'll be open to that at this point. But I don't want folks to feel like we need to take a motion on all items. I thought the thoughtfulness of your memorandum was really helpful, and we certainly will take that again under advisement to put all these things together as we bring you back. the next working version. There is the only thing that I would say about the memo that I want to caution us around is bandwidth and readiness. So the challenge for the Brown Act is that we have to post fairly early. So the challenge is, can we get something scheduled and organized and done and posted in order to have something on an agenda in the future, wherever date it is. So the first date, our next meeting, could we do and put it all together for that and have it posted early enough? I just don't know. I'm not sure exactly what it is we plan to present. But that's my only caveat that everyone needs to understand. We're always going to have a flexibility around this, because now that I've gotten some depth to your thoughts, we can then put that in there. But again, the scheduling is always going to be a little bit of a challenge for us. Availability and posting and, you know, all the bureaucratic things that we really want to make sure are part of that transparency and accessibility. So with those kind of thoughts, I would, I'll turn to Ellie and ask Ellie to suggest a motion, since she asked for that.
I think I see a few other hands up, looking like folks want to make comments before we get to a motion.
I think what I'd like to do is get a motion on the table so we can have conversation about that motion. You've all had a chance to share your thoughts, so let's get a motion on the table and then have a discussion, and then we can have we can call on everybody to do that.
Okay, so and I, in my motion, want to try to reflect some of what's come up in the discussion so far. So folks can, you know, offer amendments or whatever it is to help us get a motion that really does that. So I would like to move my memo with, well, I'm sorry, before I do that, actually, Fred raised a really important question about just, you know, since there's specific requests for the meeting that's 2 weeks from tonight, whether we would be able to get those done in time for the Brown Act. I definitely want to see that content ASAP, but, you know, if it would need to be the 22nd instead of the 8th because of open meeting policies, that would be important to understand.
And we will try, you know, if this motion is successful, we'll try to do everything, right? And then we'll come back with, hey, here's the reasons why we weren't able to do X, Y, or Z. But we'll definitely, as I say, I don't necessarily need a motion on everyone's comments, because we will look at all of them and incorporate them as much as we feasibly can. And if we can't, we'll talk about why, and maybe it's delayed or looked at in a different way. And this is not the last time we're going to talk about the work plan. We're always going to be having ongoing conversations. As we learn more, we might be like, yeah, we don't need more of that, we need more of this. Those things will be important to kind of move forward. So Ellie, you want to make a generic motion somehow?
Thanks for that. I'm so sorry. I have one other just point of order question. Mm-hmm. Am I making the motion and then we take public comment so then that could inform any amendments on the motion? Is that the order of how we're going to do it?
Tony, I'm going to ask you again for your guidance here. I was assuming that we'd have a motion and then we would hear public comment and then members of the commission?
Yes, that's typically how we do that.
Okay. So I need a motion in a second first, then we'll go to the public, and then the commission, who has heard the public, can then make comments, and we'll take a vote.
Gotcha. All right. So I'd like to move the memo. I agree with the points about keeping the work plan simple. So I want to clarify that only 1C has really detailed language that's out of keeping with the simplicity of the work plan document, and that language is not intended to go into the work plan document. That's just action from the commission on February 8th topics. It doesn't need to be in that document itself. And then I wanted to also, I guess, leave open the possibility, since it seems we may cover Charter 101 in San Jose tonight, that might leave time for 2 charter study sessions instead of just one, which addresses a point that Yang had brought up.
Okay. And a second to the motion? Jeremy Barus is a second. Okay, great. Let's move to the public then. Thank you, Ellie. That's really helpful. Let's move to the public then. Is there anyone in the public that wants to have comment on the motion before the commission?
Okay, I have Alina Yin first.
Thank you, Commissioner Masamura, for your memo. It's unfortunate that the work plan didn't quite capture my comments from 2 weeks ago. The work plan fails to mention community engagement even once, let alone a process and approach. So I came up with one for you. I've created a DIY packet, in it all related charter documents, a guide on how to participate, and a resident memo template that mirrors a city memo. A formal invitation will be sent to all 4 San Jose community colleges, San Jose State, and over 30 San Jose high schools, all neighborhood associations and community organizations, inviting diverse intergenerational participation. Every 2 weeks, I will put out an episode on the Only in San Jose podcast, summarizing what you do in this meeting, along with my own interviews with experts. People, including you, can listen to this podcast alongside this meeting. Then, on their own time, they will then virtually gather in small groups to research, discuss, debate their chosen areas of interest. A guide for discourse will also be provided. The group will then summarize their findings, recommendations in said memo, and email it to you. You will have your work cut out for you, and you're going to have to redo your work plan, which is why I also wrote to the Office of Racial Equity, every council member, and the mayor this afternoon to petition for you all to receive a stipend. Many hands will make for light work. If possible, I suggest you tap the Neighborhoods Commission, which have not met for an entire year, the Youth Commission, and the Senior Commission to help with the homework. Welcome to San Jose's inaugural virtual constitutional convention, self-serve style. People will remember you. I will ensure that what they remember will be up to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
The next speaker is Tessa Woodmansey.
Okay, thank you. Well, I really appreciated what that other person, whoever that other person was, I don't know, because my comments is that you do not have a participant list. The names of the people that are on the group, there's only first names. Thank you very much. That doesn't help much. You don't even give a last name. I've complained to Tony about this in regards to, we can't follow along as community members, who these people are. You don't have a chat. Tony says, oh, we can't have a chat because it's against Brown Act or something crappy like that. No, that's wrong. We need to be able to emulate as much as we can the virtual to be like the in person, that we would see each other. Maybe we'd ask each other for each other's card, or something like that. We have no ability to know who's talking or what's going on. And then, who's even in the meeting, who these people are, how they, what is their affiliation, what council member, because there was a very long list of how to even apply for this commission. It took you have a master's degree to get into it. Fine. Great for everybody who got in. Thank you. But I don't know who you are, and you're not making it easy. And, I really appreciate the public comment being really, really critical. And to have Lon Dieppe say that, let's not talk about the public comment, when he actually, as a council member, had the irregularity, the corruption that was allowed, that he was allowed to choose himself as the person that was on the commission, and he was on the council. This is the corruption. And yet he's saying, let's not put any content to the public comment. Yeah, this is where we've had the problem with city council meetings. We have no public comment in the beginning of the meeting, so we can regularly be there and make it easy for public comment. And the document, I really, I can't follow it. I have a master's degree. I can't follow what's going on, and I really appreciated what the other woman was saying, how she's going to work on it, but I don't even know who that person is.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Jake Tonkel.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everybody. I want to thank you all.
Hold on. I think two of us, we're going to get him back.
You guys hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry. All the thank yous, we'll add those back in there. I want to remind everybody why the commission exists, right? We had council last fall that tried to push something to a ballot initiative fairly quickly. And regardless of which side of the strong mayor discussion you were on, I think the main takeaway was that there was not enough public engagement in that short period of time. So I would personally like to disagree with former council member Dipp's, Commissioner Dipp's comment. I do think that an analysis of public opinion and public input is what city council needs to see on this issue. If it turns out that it was just 23 commissioners, Alina, Tessa, and myself, talking about this, then we didn't really do our job properly, and the commission didn't necessarily need to meet. I mean, the council members are all well equipped to understand governance, and they could have made those decisions for themselves, and in the fall as well, last fall. I would like to say that I think the work plan centers too much around topics, and would like to see it center more around the process, particularly the public engagement process. Something that this commission should be looking to exemplify and then hopefully implement into some aspects of the city charter to ensure that representation, inclusion, and accountability that Commissioner Matsumura had talked about makes it into all of our city organizations where we task with outreaching. How do we get feedback that we have all the members of the community in place? I'd love to see some analysis of post-meeting engagement. What kind of race, income, etc., age were the people that were engaging in this? Again, I want to thank Commissioner Matsumura for additional inputs to this, and I hope that there's a lengthy discussion on how we develop a process for getting this right, not just a plan around the topics of discussion.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Jake was the last speaker.
Thank you. Now I'm going to open it up to commissioners. I'm going to ask, we don't need to do a roundtable, but I'm just going to ask if there's anyone who wants to make a comment on the motion, and if you're ready for the motion, we will take it up. But any comments on the motion?
Fred, how long do you want to time comments? Should we do
Just
a minute?
Just a minute, please,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
I think we need to move on anyway, but I don't know that there's any disagreement here. I'm not seeing.
I see Magnolia and Maria.
Great, Magnolia and Maria. Magnolia, go ahead.
My comment is just for Sherry. She had asked us to shift our every other week schedules so that she doesn't have to drop her class. She's in college, I imagine. And I think last week we all said we would, but then it seems that it's solidified. So I just want us to touch base with Sherry so she can determine if she has to drop the class or not. Because I think you guys asked us all, and we were all okay with changing that for her. So
okay,
that's my only comment. I do support the motion, Ellie's motion.
Maria.
So I just want to get some clarification on what we're doing. So we're voting right now on Ellie's motion, which is to incorporate parts of her memo into our plan. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then, so the second part of my question is, tonight, are we going to take action on the motion, on the plan itself? Because I'm out of order in the motion that we're voting on, but I also want a clarification if this motion means we're going to be also voting on the full plan that was presented.
We are not voting on the full plan, Maria. This was just the draft to get your feedback. You'll get a plan back after this. So we're not voting to adopt the plan because again, it's going to be an open process that will change. But tonight was just a matter of trying to get your input on the first draft.
Okay, and then I just want to make sure that we can, after we vote on this, if we can just talk a little bit more about the plan, because I have a couple of questions on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners want to speak to the motion? If you're ready for the question, then I'd ask the clerk to take the roll.
Barbara? Barbara?
Sorry, thought I could do that with a wave. Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Elizabeth? Elizabeth?
Yes, yes.
By the way, I can't see you when I'm calling the roll, so I will need verbal. Ellie?
Yes.
Enrico?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Jeremy Avila?
Yes.
Jeremy Bruce?
Yes.
Jose?
Yes.
Lund?
Aye.
Linda?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Magnolia?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Tammy? Sherry?
Yes.
T?
Affirmative.
Veronica? Veronica? Young?
Yes.
Going back to Veronica? Marking absent.
I see Veronica on the screen, but she may be frozen. She just dropped off. Maybe she was frozen.
If she comes back on, we can come back to it. Just not if once the meeting's over, we can't.
Okay, so she comes back into the meeting before.
I'm back.
There you go. Veronica, you want to vote?
Yes.
Thank you. And that motion carries. Maria, you had a question?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify a little bit on the work plan, because looking at the calendar, I mean, only because this is what's going to be public in terms of our plan, you know, given it's presented tonight and we've discussed it and we're going to continue refining it. But I think that even with this motion that we just passed, I'm afraid that it might give the public the impression that we're not going to be that open for community input. And I'm concerned about that because I think it's, you know, we're going to be, as we all know, we have a very strong responsibility, though we don't have any power or authority, but we're going to look at something that's really going to impact the citizens, the community of our city way into the future. And I just want to make sure that it's very evident and obvious in what we have publicly available, such as this work plan, that we're very committed and we're going to be having sufficient community input and dialogue to inform our final recommendations. And I just don't know if the current way it's written explains that enough. And I hope that somehow it's whatever is put out into the public, whether it's our minutes or whatever is out there, that it's clear our intention.
So thank you, Commissioner Fuentes. There is the minutes of our meeting would be published. This is a recorded meeting, so all of your comments are in the public domain, and the notes will also note that. And then we're going to bring back another draft to you. And so if you are not assured that this is enough of the public process or the engagement or the timing or any of the other elements to it that you're not satisfied with, you'll have another opportunity to be able to give input around it. So that's why we're not adopting anything tonight. We just looked at the draft. We got your input. All of the input from all commissioners will be considered in addition to the public comment, and we'll be bringing back a draft to you. Okay. Thank you all for very thoughtful and engaged conversation. This is great. And I'm really appreciative to Commissioner Matsumoto for taking the
Fred,
time.
Garrick has also raised his hand. I don't know what your process is right now, or if we've kind of done with voting and want to move on.
We're on 2 pages, so it's hard for me to see.
Yeah.
But just really appreciate your time and energy in putting that together, and for everyone who read the memo to be able to kind of dive into the weeds. So Garrick, I'm going to recognize you, and then I'm going to move forward.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. I just wanted to say quickly that I firmly agree with the importance of, and I appreciate the comments from the public as well on the importance of process and public input. I think one of the things to sort of keep in mind, I think, is as we all sort of try to, get comfortable with some of the issues we're working on. I think we're going to have hopefully a clear idea about the process, how that will work once we get a little more comfortable with those issues, because I think we're going to be able to engage the public more when we're working more on concrete things, representation, community input, neighborhood, how these fit into some of the discussions that we're having. And so I think that process I'm hoping will become clearer as we get a little further along in the process. So I know that the members of the public and members of the commission are really focused on that, rightfully so. But I think we can continue to focus on that and provide some more specific input that will engage people more directly as we go along.
Thank you, Garrick. And I think that just reminds us that our commission is a public engagement strategy, right? This is part of the strategy. Tony, I'm going to give you the last word.
Oh, yes. I just texted Fred. Oh, hi. I just texted Fred. When this meeting closes, when you guys are all done, if the attendees and any commission members want to stay online, I'm going to do a quick overview of where you can find the documents, where the Charter Review Commission website, where the agendas are, how to read the agendas and find the attachments to them. So that will be after the close of this meeting. So if you already know all of that stuff, you can just go. If you're a member of the public or a commission member and you want to kind of just see a share screen to see where these things are, stay on and I'll show them. It'll take 5 to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Tony. I'm going to now move to our next agenda item. Again, my thanks for great discussion. Let's move to item C, which is the report from the consultant. At this point, that was the only announcement that the clerk had. We're going to go to item C1, which is review of the commissioners' agreements. So I'm going to turn this over to Lawrence, who's going to walk us through getting consensus on, did we hear you at our last meeting? Is there anything else that we need to add on? So Lawrence.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Fred. Before I jump in, I did not actually know that Commissioner Matsumoto had sent out a memo before we did the work plan. So that is just something that we're going to need to get together on our staff process so that we can make sure that we're any follow-up that happens outside of these meetings that we can consider that. But just FYI that, and thank you for the thoughtful discussion. As far as the commissioner agreements, one of the other things we need to get our process better around is making sure the right documents get posted. The commissioner agreements you have are not the final ones that Fred and I wanted to post. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully, actually, that's helpful for participants' attendance, not commissioners. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to share. Hopefully, this works. Let me know if you are seeing my screen. Do you see commissioner agreements? Thumbs up?
Yes.
Great, fantastic. Yes. Okay, so what we tried to do here was just reflect back the conversation that we had 2 weeks ago about your expectations for this commission and our process together. So I hope actually that this does reflect some of the intention around engagement and diversity that we just heard. The one thing I want to point out right before we jump in is that your document has we strive for consensus, but we actually changed that to we follow a fair, transparent, and efficient process, which mentions consensus. The idea here is just to, and I'll go through them actually one by one. I won't read them, but we value diversity, we are present, we respect each other, we make room for everyone to speak, We seek meaningful engagement. We are focused and prepared. And we follow a fair and transparent process, an efficient process. So this was our attempt to, again, put together almost a code of conduct for how we want to work together and how you commissioners see and relate with each other. So what I'd like to do now is spend 30 seconds for commissioner, do a round robin, and give any feedback you have on this set of values and agreements. This is not going to be something, a hard kind of process document that we need to vote on, but this is something that we also want to hear from you as we present this draft, go back and revise it, and hopefully land on something that feels like it works for everybody. So with that in mind, Tony, would you mind going through the role again? And I'll just time 30 seconds. And if you have any comments or anything, if this sounds good to you, just give a thumbs up and say yes. If you have anything you'd like to change or add, please let me know. Let's get started.
I'm going to go backwards this time. Yang Zhao.
Fantastic.
So Yang Zhao?
Yes, I agree. Looks good to me.
Thank you.
Veronica?
I agree. Looks good.
T. Tran?
Sorry about that. The audio cut off. No objections on my end.
Sherry?
No objections. Looks good.
Sammy?
No objections. Thank you.
Maria?
I like all of it. I just want to suggest that in the we seek meaningful engagement, that we reverse the orders of the sentences so that it's clear that we actively reach out to members of the public, and then that's followed that we are the representatives. But otherwise, it looks great.
Great.
Magnolia?
Yes, I agree.
Lewis?
Yes, I agree. And just a point of clarification, I know that there's a second page to this. Are the bullets and topics on the second page going to be discussed later?
The bullets on the second page were actually not intended to be posted, which is part of the process that we need to get out. There was a draft of our internal work that was posted. So those other items hopefully were reflected in the work plan, and also will actually be added to the work plan. So that's where they went.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I see some good points on the second page, and it's good to hear that they're going to be adopted in another document. So,
is there anything in
thank you.
particular on that second page that was important to you?
So the first page is us as commissioners engaging each other and us seeking input. And on the second page, I really see more of the nuances. So those are some of the things that I think if we could agree to those hows, or at least the spirit of the hows, I think that will make our work much more rich.
Great, thank you.
Linda?
Works for me.
None?
Yes, I believe focus has one S though.
Thank you.
Jose?
The only thing that I would maybe suggest is to add something regarding the timeline and being flexible, as was mentioned earlier about the timeline not being as strict as it or aggressive as it needs to be, that we accommodate for any things that might come up between now and July.
Thanks.
Jeremy? Bruce?
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's a great start. And just in addition, looking at Commissioner Matsumura's memo under Section 3, under amend the Commissioner Agreement as follows. Under item A, under we make room for everyone to speak, add the language, we will ensure that commissioners are allotted adequate speaking time to make substantive contributions to achieving our complex directives. Just want to reflect that and we can be intentional on adding that that language to that subject. And for item B, under we strive for consensus, just being intentional and I know we're going to discuss in the future, but adding that language on what our decision making will mean to get to that.
Great, thank you.
Jeremy Avila,
This looks fantastic. I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Garrick.
Yeah, I think this looks good. I would just to follow up on Jeremy's point. I think it's a good one that making space for everyone to speak, but also recognize that there are going to be some points along the process where we may need to negotiate, be able to speak for longer periods while also keeping it equitable. So, thank you.
Frank.
It looks fine to me. Thank you.
Enrico.
Looks good.
Ellie.
Yeah, it looks good. Thanks to Jeremy, Bruce, for your points. And are we also going to have the opportunity for any public comment on this item as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks for the work.
Elizabeth.
I think you capture it very well. Thanks. No other comments.
Dan. Sorry. Christina.
Looks good to me. I would just switch the 2 sentences under "we are focused prepared" to "we have a clear picture of where we're going. We do our homework and ask for the information we need to make good decisions. We ask good questions to move the conversation forward."
And Barbara.
Looks good to me. I think Christina's suggestion is a good one. I think it would be a mistake to put too much more detail into this, because this is a really good aura for atmosphere for the group to work in. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the commission on the commissioner agreements?
Tessa Woodmansey.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I guess the issue of public engagement, which I appreciate that you're focusing on, but it's, a matter of really doing it and not just talking about it. And it hasn't been done very well in the past. And so even these meetings are difficult. And so when the public brings up comments, it goes into a garbage can because there's no response back. And I've brought this comment to you many times at the council that at the San Jose Unified School District, I've been told that when public comes up and talks and brings up issues, there's a response back. And I would like a response back. I mean, the thing is, the way the educational aspect, if we're trying to reach, all the way through our public at every level for people that are English as a second language, a lot of these issues, how the curriculum is set up is really poor. It's difficult to follow. And I've been saying that, why can't we have a screen that shows even the item that you're talking about? That would be helpful, like we do at City Hall. That needs to be there. To follow along with where we are on the meeting. And then on top of it, basically, let me see, I had another comment, but, basically a response to public from Tony. So when I say that, I can't tell who's there. I don't know who's on this meeting. I don't see a participant list. There is no chat. These type of things, I think we need to address back. And instead of it going nowhere as a public, because, why are we here? And you're saying you really want to hear from us, but then we talk and then there's no response back. So then that doesn't go well. And I think that needs to be changed in all of our meetings, that we need to have a response back. And that, Tony can do it. We pay her. I don't expect the volunteers on this commission to do it, but Tony could be doing it. How our meetings could be run so that the virtual meeting has real effectiveness and engagement of the community. And I think it does start with.
Thank you very much. Nick, is there anybody else that's speaking to the item?
Lena Yin.
Hello. I would like to say that currently I feel like one of the values of
meaningful outreach is being failed at this moment. I understand that one of the commissioners had mentioned that this meeting is the strategy of community engagement, but it is not, because 2 weeks ago I made a public comment about community engagement. I made my suggestions on how we need it, that's what we want, and it was completely failed that it wasn't even mentioned in the work plan, and it's still not addressed now. There's no address to the public on how we're supposed to do this. Public comment, it doesn't work in these meetings during public hearings as well, because of the same problem due to the Brown Act. It legally bars dialogue and discourse, and this is what we need, and this is what we want, and this is what we've been asking for since last summer. Also, I would like to add, and I would like to see into the agreements, accountability. There needs to be accountability of how you're doing this work and how you're going to be accountable to the people. Values are great, but they're meaningless without the how and a process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that's addressing this, Tony?
I have one last person, Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you for your work on this item of everyone. It was nice to hear, that some persons spoke about kind of what they expect of the process and how the community, how just the public can be involved, and you tried to set out some guidelines and some rules of the road kind of stuff, which is understandable. And, persons I think mentioned about how, different parts of the community could do research on subjects and stuff. So that's well and good. And I thank you. And I just hope there can be always room to hear when an idea emerges from the public, when or from any place. When there's a good idea that appears, it seems it has to. This is a sort of place to respect it and to be a place to talk about it if it's worth that sort of dialogue and conversation. And for all of ourselves to be open to that. That should be the other part of the coin of the guidelines that you're trying to set up at this time. And so thank you. Good luck on all of our efforts and how we're going to work in the next few months. And I guess that's about all. Just try to always be open to good ideas. And thanks.
Thank you. Is there any other?
That was the last speaker.
Okay. All right.
Great. Thank you all. We will incorporate that in the next round, and glad it seems to resonate, and appreciate the recommendations from Ellie's memo to include. All right. We are now going to move into basically a little bit of studying. We decided, Fred and I, when we talked last week, that
before we get started, that
yeah.
A 5-minute bio break so that folks can take a stretch break now before we get into
I have about a half an hour, maybe 20 to 30 minute presentation, and then just a couple questions, and then we'll wrap up, I think, after more public comment. But how do folks feel? Move ahead or bio break? Anyone needs a bio break?
I think we should just go ahead, and people can step up if we need to take a bio break.
Okay.
Great.
All right, then let's continue.
Okay, does everybody see the City of San Jose Charter Review Commission presentation? Fantastic. All right. What
presentation mode?
Let me see if that'll work. I am using 2 screens, and so I don't know. All right. You see full screen? Great. Okay. So what I put together is a part 1, City Charters 101, history of city charters in general, really defining our terms on the local governance models that we're talking about, city council, mayor council, council manager, weak mayor, strong mayor, etc. The evolution of city charters, I think there's some important context for us here as far as how charters have evolved, at least at a high level. And then the process for establishing and revising a charter here in California. It is the Constitution of California that gives cities in California the ability to create charters to manage themselves and govern themselves. And then we'll start to dig into the San Jose City Charter. We'll talk about what I was able to find as far as the process of establishing the current 1965 City Charter. We'll talk about some specifics of governance, and then some of the charter provisions that I think are helpful. And as I'm seeing this, okay, that's actually working. So let's just jump in with history of city charters. So a city charter or a town charter is a legal document that establishes a municipality such as a city-town. That's what we're talking about. I thought it was important to define this. And as I say that, I really want to make sure that folks like Garrick, who have studied this work, and folks like Barbara, who said that they're new to this, both have some way to kind of come together a little bit with their level of understanding of what a charter is and what we're talking about as we move forward. And charters can be established by a state legislature or by local legislation. California's Constitution sets aside a few different provisions that guides cities, how cities govern themselves. There's a notion of home rule that I'll talk about in a minute. Well, home rule is basically the ability for a constituency of a state to be able to govern itself. So it wasn't until 1879 in California that cities actually had home rule. And at that point, all cities were granted inherent home rule power to legislate without having to be granted that authority by the state. There's been subsequent changes over that, including the big one for our conversation in 1896. Voter-approved charters allowed to trump state law over municipal affairs. So this was a big moment, which I'll talk about in more depth. And then there was additional authority given to charters in the 20th century, chartered cities. And then this is where we are today. So I'm going to, this is a little bit of a history lesson. I'm going to only focus on what's most important for our conversation about San Jose's city charter. But I think it is important to know that there was a point where cities actually did not have the ability to govern themselves and were governed by the state. And that there was basically backlash by local communities that felt that there's too much meddling by the state. And in 1879, all cities were granted home rule powers. And this is interestingly, the home rule provisions came from the state of Missouri, which was the first state to grant home rule powers to cities. And those home rule powers are enshrined in Article 11 of the California State Constitution. And they grant to every city, whether it's a general law city or a charter city, the ability to make or enforce within its limits all local, police, sanitary, and other ordinances or regulations not in conflict with general laws. So there is a notion that if laws conflict with important authority of the state, then that's a limit for local rule or home power. Since this amendment also includes sort of the ability for communities to police themselves, it's also known as the Police Power Amendment. Professor Joseph Grodin, Hastings College of Law and a former assistant to the California Supreme Court, said that this allowed local governments to exercise whatever powers necessary without the need to request legislative authority before taking action. This is really the big thing for our conversation, as I mentioned. Section 5A of Article 11 introduced the concept of municipal affairs. This is still up for interpretation in courts of law, but generally, municipal affairs are those that municipalities need to be concerned with themselves. And this granted voters the ability to adopt charters for their municipalities that gave them additional control over municipal affairs. That amendment, that section specifies 4 subjects that can be included in city charters: a city police force, a subgovernment in all or part of the city, the conduct of city elections, as well as the election, appointment, removal, and compensation of municipal officers and employees whose compensation is paid by the city. There's some more home rule changes that happened in the 20th century that I'll skip over. And then California Home Rule today, I've put in bold basically what's important to know about why city charters are so important and what they do, what they enable municipalities to do. Again, it's that notion of home rule authority and supremacy over their municipal affairs, police, sub-government, city elections, and their elected and appointed city officials, which we just read, and then those four municipal affair areas, commonly regarded as municipal affairs. Again, as to matters of statewide concern, charter cities remain subject to state law. So this is sort of the separation of powers, not separation of powers, but the emergence of local rule and separation of power and control from state to local. So that's kind of the big picture of the history of charters. I just wanted to ground us on what a charter actually is. And as we think about San Jose's, a little bit of legal grounding in that. So what is enshrined in a charter, especially the governance models? That's what I wanted to talk about next. So you've probably heard these terms. I think it's really important that we get some specific about these terms. And so I wanted to touch base on the two primary models and mention the three other models here. The two primary models are the mayor-council form. The mayor-council form is when an elected council or board serves as the legislative body, and the chief elected official, i.e. the mayor, is the head of government with significant administrative authority and generally elected separately from the council. Oftentimes, this is smaller cities. This was the original form of governance in the United States. The council manager form has become more popular. This is the current form that the city of San Jose operates under. And I did not update this slide, so we'll move on. There are three other recognized forms of governance at the local level in the United States: commission, town meeting, and representative town meeting, but they're very, very small percentage-wise, less than 5% of cities across the country. So the mayor-council form, again, there is a elective legislative body that is, let's read that, serves as the legislative body. And this is where strong mayor and weak mayor comes in. The primary difference here is that in the strong mayor, the mayor has a lot more power to appoint and remove departmental heads. The mayor actually drafts the budget and sends it to council for adoption in the strong mayor form, possesses veto power, and exercises more oversight over the city's day-to-day operations. This can be done with or without a city manager. In comparison, the weak mayor system is the council appoints or approves department heads and drafts the budget, oftentimes in consultation with the mayor or city manager. The mayor possesses limited to no veto power, and the mayor shares oversight responsibility with council, city manager, or both. So it's much more of a collaboration or a cooperation between the mayor and the council. The mayor is more of a figurehead. And again, this could be done with or without the city manager, but we'll see that the city manager becomes, in the council manager form, sort of the appointed administrative official that takes on a lot more responsibility. So the council manager form has three primary roles, if you want to call them that. The city manager is appointed or dismissed by city council. The city manager is responsible for drafting and proposing a budget, responsible for amending a budget as dictated by council, and responsible for appointing department heads and directors, sometimes with council approval, and then also implementing any of the policies that council or policy or legislation issues that council votes on. City council, elected to 2 or 4 year terms, either by district or at large, responsible for appointing that city manager, responsible for drafting and passing legislation and ordinances, and responsible for approving the budget. And in this form, the mayor is generally elected to 2 to 4 year terms, votes at city council meetings, but does not possess veto powers, but also continues to be the official representative of the city on state, national, and international levels. So that is mayor, council, and council manager. this is a lot of information, so that's why I prepared this presentation. So you'll be receiving this and you can go back and read it, but hopefully this starts to inform kind of the terms and language of our conversation. So how have city charters changed over the years? In the late 19th century and early 20th century, most cities utilized a weak mayor-council form of municipal government. In the late 19th century, late 1800s, cities began experimenting with other types of municipal government, and a political movement began that criticized inefficiencies in weak mayor-council governments and I think this is important context too, their failure to break the power of political bosses and machines that influenced American politics. So both the strong mayor-council form and the council-manager government form arose to basically have local government be more transparent, accountable, and efficient compared to some of the corrupt practices that were much more rampant earlier in our country's history. Again, the mayor-council form, the strong mayor-council form, the executive administrative power was removed from city council and placed in the hands of an at-large city mayor, and the council manager form, in which city councils were required to hire a professional administrator who would be responsible for municipal finances. So this professionalization of government and professionalization of administration of government really starts to become a hallmark of the council manager form right up till today. So the general trend is that smaller cities usually start out in the mayor-council model, but as they grow, the complexities of administering a city get to be too overwhelming, and the need to professionalize administration becomes much more important. There is a whole body of research about the efficacy of the council manager form versus the mayor-council form, but that's that the prevalence of council manager form in the 21st century was really indicative of a trend towards professionalization in municipal administration, and that state laws and transparency and accountability organizations were the catalyst for this trend. So something to think about as we think about accountability, as you all think about accountability as part of your work. So really quickly, how do you establish or revise a charter in California? The state constitution says the governing body itself or a charter commission like you all of a county or city may propose a charter or a revision. Amendment or repeal may be proposed by initiative or the governing body. In this case, it was proposed by the governing body, and it's being run by a charter commission, and then we'll go back to a vote by the governing body. An election to determine whether to draft or revise may be required by the governing body, and then that there are some specifics about conflicts if there's two competing measures on the ballot. Okay, that is the basics of city charter. It's very high level. We'll be seeing some more of that in practice as we get into some of our study sessions about different cities, and certainly in San Jose. But hopefully we can refer back to this presentation and this language as we move forward. So I did a little research about San Jose's city charter, and wanted to really get a sense of what happened in 1965 when a new charter commission was engendered to create a new city charter. Multiple charters have existed in San Jose. One of the council memos, they mentioned that a charter revision commission has existed since 1917, or there have been revision commissions. But I couldn't find much background on the 1965 charter commission process other than this quote from Charles Davidson, who was a member of the 1965 charter commission. I think he's in his 90s now and is still a local San Jose resident and a very successful developer. Some of you probably know of him, but I thought what was interesting was that his quote was that 15 local landowners gathered to write the blueprint for how the city would operate. And so what I just wanted to point out is that the folks that draft the charter have a lot of influence on how the city works and the services the city provides, how it provides them, et cetera. The last time a charter commission was used in the city to in this case, create a new charter, well, it was all 15 local landowners. So I don't know much more. I think that there's probably some more research we can do there, and I'll be looking into that just out of my own curiosity. But that says something to me that this was the last. And looking at all of you, it's a very different situation. And I think it's like I feel a lot more diversity than what I read from this statement. Not that you're all not all landowners, you might be, but you know, I suspect that you know it's not everyone in our society that has the ability. Or the privilege to be able to be a landowner. So, the specifics of governance here in San Jose. As mentioned, we have a council manager government with the city manager nominated by the mayor and elected by the council. The mayor and the council comprised of 10 council members elected by district, and the mayor elected by the entire city. Again, the mayor of San Jose has no veto powers. 4-year terms for all those positions, even number districts beginning in 1994 and moving forward, and mayor and odd number districts beginning in 1996. And then the mayor and council are limited to 2 successive terms. Council member that has reached the term limit can be elected mayor, so essentially adding another term and a new role, and vice versa. Mayor can become a council member if they've termed out. The city manager in San Jose is the chief administrative officer of the city and must present an annual budget for the approval by the city council. When vacant, the mayor can propose a candidate for the city manager subject to council approval. Council appoints the city manager for an indefinite term and may at any time remove the manager, or the electorate may remove the manager through a recall. So city manager recall is a thing, and a possibility in San Jose. And then the council directly appoints the city attorney, city auditor, city clerk, independent police auditor. So finally, getting into the nuts and bolts of the San Jose City Charter, I wanted to at least present all of the charter provisions to you and highlight some of the ones that I think are most relevant to the conversation in front of you all. There's a lot of ins and outs and weeds, proverbial weeds in the city charter. So I wanted to at least give you a little bit of a guide to guide your own research on the city charter, which I anticipate us talking about in more depth next week. So, excuse me, 2 weeks. So there's an incorporation and secession provision, and then a powers of the city provision. The form of government provision maps out that council manager form that we've been talking about. And then the council lays out the council's governance, and there's a few sections here that I think are of particular relevance, especially to the first and second buckets that we talked about in our work plan. Powers invested in council, mayor and council member term limits, the council and interference with administrative matters, and department heads' policy objectives and consent to hire. There's also a section on the mayor and governance thereof, section 501 political position, and then section 502 the mayor powers and duties. There's also a section on legislation and the code of ethics. And moving on, we have 23 provisions here. So this is the second out of 3 slides. There's a section on the role of the city manager and the appointment terms and commission compensation and city manager powers and duties. There's a section on administrative organization, general provisions, the direction by city manager, and organization, conduct, and operation of departments. And then another section on officers, employees, and it gets into city clerk, city auditor, city attorney, etc. There's a number of other provisions here. If you're so inclined, you can read all of them, but I wanted to at least give some of you a guide, since it is an overwhelming 95-page PDF if you do want to dig in. The last section that I thought would be relevant would be the section on elections. Municipal elections, special municipal elections, an initiative, referendum, and recall, and the removal of city manager. So that is a whirlwind tour through city charters, and some of the references I'll include here that I used to put this document together. California League of Cities and National League of Cities in particular are incredible resources for understanding governance of municipalities across the United States. With that, what I'd like to do to inform our next conversation as we talk about the specifics of, get into the details of San Jose, but our thinking here was to provide some background and hopefully some common language for talking about city charter. Invite you all to read elements or provisions within San Jose's charter before we meet next, and then outline some questions for further discussion and a deeper dive as far as how the city of San Jose's governance works vis-a-vis its city charter. Fred, if it's okay with you, I would love to just take a little time right now, maybe 30 seconds or a minute from each commissioner, and just see if they have any specific questions on this so that we can take that into consideration for the next time we meet.
Yes, that'd be great.
All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Tony, would you do us the honors again?
I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to start with Lund.
Yeah, I really appreciated that. It was a good overview, and I think good basic information for us to all know. Could you remind me? I have something to say, but I don't want to go off topic.
Yeah. So what we're looking for here is additional questions you have about city charters. And as we're in our study phase of our work plan, what do we want to make sure that we are steeped in the knowledge about how city charters work and how San Jose's charter and form of government works in particular. So to guide the materials we put together, both for the next time we meet and onward, would love to hear from you any additional questions you have or areas you want us to explore further.
Sure. Sure. I won't say the thing I wanted to say. I'll raise my hand later. But to your question, then I think the overview is good. If you're bringing more information to us, if you were able to do research, I think it would be helpful to this body to kind of wrap our heads around how the charter is exercised in practical purposes. In a typical council meeting, what does that mean in terms of we elect the mayor, and then the mayor has a platform that he wins on in the majority of the city, and then she is unable to exercise a vision, when we have unrest in a city and then there's a call for a curfew, is that the mayor, is that the council, or is that the city administrator? So practical implications of how we're set up right now.
Great, thank you.
Linda?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Lawrence. That was great. Two things. If you're looking for someone to share history of San Jose with you regarding the Charter Commission, the last one, I talked to former Mayor Tom McInnery. He is our local historian. And I think it's important that, much like Leanne said, the way the council operates, it's a little more nuanced and a little of a hybrid mayor, council, manager from what you were reading to us. So I think the way it operates in the real world is different than how it is on paper. I was a former council member, so having served under a different type of council, mayor and council than the one that's there now or subsequently, it changes with the mayor. It changes with the council. How much he or she can get away with as mayor.
Great, thank you.
Lewis?
Was that Luis?
Luis.
Yeah, Luis, sorry.
Yeah, Luis, okay. No, perfect, thank you. Thank you, Lawrence, for the quick overview. I know it's a lot of history to capture in 25 minutes, and I appreciate the references at the end. I think those are good invites for us to do more of that research. In the area of the common language, because I hear you say that would be a good thing to establish, is I wonder if we can find an alternative to strong and weak, Because I think once we begin to ask in our neighborhoods, hey, what do you think about a weak mayor and a strong mayor? I think people, without listening to what comes after that, after those labels, they'll say, well, strong, right? Like, let's go strong. Like, why aren't we strong, right? Let's go strong. So I would say to change or to think of an alternative hashtag for that, just so we can get more in-depth responses and engagement.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I think one of the things that I wanted to emphasize is that I think oftentimes strong mayor, weak mayor gets conflated with mayor, council, and council manager. And so that underneath that mayor council, there's a sort of a more empowered executive and a less empowered executive form. But Fred and I have already talked about that. So thank you for bringing it up.
Magnolia?
Hi, Lawrence, thank you so much for that. I would really like to see a chart, if possible, of the different choices. So for example, more empowered mayor, less empowered mayor. You could still have the city manager, but also give the mayor veto power. There seems to be different lots of different combinations of options. And it would be nice to visually be able to see that in a chart.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Maria?
Thank you for the presentation. This is very, very helpful. One thing I would like to see in the future presentation is just the role of districts, of having districts in our city the way we elect our city council members. And I mean, I know that's common, but in any case, what has been the impact of the role of the city council members relative to the mayor? Also, lack of better words, Louise, strong or weak mayor, that type of thing. Because I mean, we're operating in our city, we're operating on with a system that we have in place with elected city council members. But I think it's very important for us to getting into the topics and the assignment that our commission has, get into how it's working. And historically, how has our city, particularly the various areas in our city, neighborhoods, et cetera, how have they been positively or negatively impacted with this? And then also, I mean,
Thanks, Maria. That was a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Sammy?
Yes, great presentation. Thank you. I guess I want to hear more of how it impacts the city, what type of power it has, and maybe see how other cities are dealing with their organization and comparing it to our city. And definitely I'd like to hear about those other 3 types of organizations. We have an option, or that's an option out there.
Great, thanks.
Gary?
I'm sorry, did you say Sherry?
Yes.
Thank you so much for that overview and history of San Jose. I'm a resident, but I've been here, I think 4 years now. So, it's really interesting, and I know I'll have questions once I open that document and start digging in a little bit. I wanted to really quickly say thank you, Magnolia, for considering my class, because I was the only one, but it's really important, so thank you. And Maria, I'm interested in the same thing. This is the first time I've, volunteered to be on charter, and I'm just wondering kind of how they have impacted neighborhoods in the past, and there's always takeaways from anything. Is there takeaways maybe that we can benefit from so that we can hopefully have more impact on neighborhoods?
T-Tran?
Some nice time traveling we did in the last 20 minutes. No, all jokes aside, thanks, Lawrence, really. I think I'd love if, as we further get along into this research, we were able to kind of dive into the thought processes of years past. We mentioned in the presentation, or Lawrence, you mentioned in the presentation about the 65 Charter Commission, right? I mean, we had that one quote and that was it. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure we can find a way to gather all that together as kind of to serve as like a pinpoint for consequences and maybe key differences to keep in mind down in the line. Now, granted, it's been granted, forgive me, I'm in law school. There's a joke about us not doing so well in math, maybe about like 40, 50 plus years now. So if we can just, I'm sure that even in the past, the considerations that were there, that occurred then, are just as much relevant now as topics. So that's something to keep in mind.
Thank you.
Veronica?
Great, thank you. And I also want to echo just the presentation and the visuals, really having something to better visually represent that, as well as putting ourselves away from the strong and weak mayor. And again, the negative impacts, positive impacts that not just on the neighborhoods, but as well as the whole city on city terms and elections and future redistricting, and how has redistricting happened and how has it impacted different districts. It's something that I'm very interested in and would like to know more about. Thank you.
Yang Yao?
Yeah, thanks for the education. It's very helpful. My suggestion would be using a chart would be more visible, and maybe put some pros and cons so that it's easier for us to understand and also for the general public, because a lot of people would have no sense of what strong means or what weak means, and a real example will be a lot easier. Thanks.
Thank you.
Barbara?
Well, the last Charter Change Commission, and I'm not sure exactly when it was, but the district election came about as a result of that charter change. And there was another significant charter change that actually gave San Jose's mayor more power. This was after, some of you will remember, the bond is a huge financial loss of the city in the late 80s. And Tom McHenry was the mayor and was given more power over the budget. The mayor here does submit the budget. And as someone said before, different mayors make more use of the power that's given them than others do. I think we need to, accountability is the issue that really seems to a head. And I think we need to get to that, to what's the balance between having ideally a less political system with a mayor, council manager system, which should make the running of the day-to-day running of city government less political. Whereas if you have a strong mayor, you can, politicize the actual operation of the city more.
That was a minute, Barbara. Just
okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Christina?
Thank you, Lawrence, and your team for that presentation. It was very informative. I would want to see more history about public engagement, what has been done in the past, what worked, what didn't work. And I want to echo Commissioner Barosio's comments about the language. I think especially now, language can easily be misconstrued. So thinking of an alternative for strong and weak mayor would be helpful. And I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Elizabeth? Elizabeth?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't get it to work. I was going to also ask a question about why why the charter was changed, or it sounds like it was a new charter written in 1965, why that occurred and what the history's been since that change, since that rewriting. It's an all new city, all new charter since 1965. What's the mayor, council, and departments been since that time, and why are we looking at this today to make this this change? What's our journey been?
Great, thank you.
Ellie?
Thank you. Yeah, echo Elizabeth's remarks. You know, there was the 1985 commission. District elections came out of the voters. There have been other changes by the voters. So I think, you know, understanding all of that will be really valuable. Folks talked about accountability. What metrics can we use to understand accountability? People talked about the impact on different districts, and I would add, you know, impact by race, by land ownership, et cetera. Can we use equity as a metric? I think whether folks, elected officials get reelected or administrators get recalled is also a metric of equity. And I want to just really agree with the points that were made about that strong mayor is not just one approach, and council manager is not just one approach. There's a lot of complexity and sort of mix and match and different ways that the powers of the council and the mayor affect each other. So we should look at that. And last, as everybody acknowledged, there's a lot here. And so I just wanted to find out if there's going to be a deadline for members of the commission or the public to be able to submit questions in advance of the next meeting. Thanks. If we need more time to reflect.
Got it. Thank you.
Enrico?
All right, excellent comments, I think, for all those in front of me. Thank you for the presentation, very informative, good high-level understanding of what's going on. Clearly, I have 95 pages that I have to read, and so I'm going to definitely get busy now in the next meeting. I truly want to have an understanding, and I really want to compliment Elizabeth's thoughts in terms of the history of the changes of the charter. I think it's so important for us to understand what was changed, why it was changed, and what's been done up until this date. So hopefully we can get an understanding of what has occurred over the course of the years from the last commission. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Frank?
Hey, just a couple of things. First of all, thanks for the presentation. I did not see it listed on the agenda, the actual presentation. Is it just me, or do we not have copies?
We well, I finished it earlier today, so you don't have a copy yet, but you'll get one. And it was just bucketed under the consultant consultant report.
Okay, because it's hard to have detailed comments if you can't see it, so that'd be good to have.
Yep.
Just a thought, in terms of the various options that we're looking at, maybe Garrett could help us or somebody. Has any entity actually looked at how effective these various models are and where they fail and why they fail if they do? You know, what are the weaknesses of them? So it'd be good to have that kind of information too, if we could. That's it.
Great. Thanks, Frank.
Eric?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Lawrence, for that. And all really great comments. I'll just sort of add on to many of you commented on learning about the past charter commissions. And there was certainly a lot of really important activity in the 1970s, especially with district elections. I think one of the things, I think just to point out for the commission, that I think a lot of the things that I think that concern us today, and I think motivate this commission, things like diversity and responsiveness and inclusiveness, very much part of the conversation back then as well. So I think we could really benefit from hearing from folks who were working in city government at the time, organizing at the time at the neighborhood level and so forth. So I think that can really help inform a lot of the things that we're discussing today. And so a lot of the issues are different in a lot of ways, but very similar in many ways too. So, and to Linda's point earlier, I think that it's really going to be important to think about what often I think of like San Jose as an adapted city. It's like over the years, we've made these changes to give the mayor more powers than what is traditionally in a mayor council form. or city manager form of government. So I'll just leave it at that for now. But I think some of those charts and ways to sort of categorize this for all of us would be helpful.
Thank you.
Jeremy Avila.
Thank you, Lawrence, for the presentation, and to my fellow commissioners for their thoughtful comments and additions. The only thing that I would add, which I think is a different way of saying what so many of my colleagues have already touched upon, is who else has dealt with this and what worked and what didn't work. Not just looking at the last time that San Jose went through this process, but the last time other cities of San Jose's size or similar went through this. You know, I hear and I resonate with the comments that Luis and Lan mentioned about, you know, the right framing and the right language and making sure that it's clear what the practical impacts are. And I think by looking to what other cities of similar sizes have done, or these stories or the path, and fill in the gaps so that this is truly impactful and achieves the goals for the community that we're serving.
Thank you.
Jeremy Bruce.
Great, thank you, Lawrence, for the great presentation. And I have one question. So when the charter goes before voters, what is the threshold that would need to be passed? Is it 2/3, 6? I feel like I knew that answer at one time.
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Got
Anyone else?
Hi, this is Mark Vanny with the City Attorney's Office. It's a majority vote.
Oh, just a majority vote. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Anything else, Jeremy?
Yeah, just you know, great comments by my colleagues here on the commission. And yeah, you know, when we break down the different forms of government, if you know, there's an opportunity to break them out and view from an equity lens. I know it's been discussed before, but I think that would be really beneficial to this commission and to the city.
Thanks.
And the last before the chair is Jose.
I just wanted to say that I look forward to the next sessions where we're going to do some of those studies with I think it was San Diego and Detroit, and would like to just kind of see the comparison between those cities and our cities, and if it's available, maybe seeing, as was brought up earlier, what the community thought of the changes that were made in either those cities that we're going to look at or other cities where they also were proposing and implemented some type of charter changes. What did the community think about it after those things took in effect? That's all.
Great. And thank you all. And before I turn it back to Fred, you know, I'll just put out a general invitation as you discover items of interest, references, resources, examples from other cities. I think probably you all will start to pay attention a bit more as you hear new stories, may even do your own research. So I really would invite you to send anything you find to Tony. If it's appropriate, I can also give out my information. Let me just check with Tony to see if that is appropriate for you to send things directly to me. But so yeah, we can make sure that my information is available too, and I'm happy to collect that and add it as inputs for these presentations. So thank you all. Fred, back to you.
This is the clerk. I just want to emphasize, don't send it to each other.
Don't send it to each other. Brown Act.
I was just going to say, just wanted to remind. And then Tony, would you do me a favor? Could you just clarify, because some questions came up around it. Is there not a redistricting commission right now concurrent to us?
Yeah, there's one. It's being seated tomorrow, and then they'll be starting their meetings in mid-February.
So one of the things, and just a point of clarification, is when we see their directive, I think that'll help us to know to stay in our lane, to stay in their lane, so that we're both looking at questions. We may inform each other. We may, you know, send recommendations or thoughts to each other. But I do know, I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that there is, council has also commissioned a redistricting or a district issues kind of question. So some of the questions that you were asking may in fact be things that we have to talk about but there is another commission that looks at that. I'm so glad that you all picked up on the strong mayor, weak mayor piece, because Lawrence and I had a really good conversation about that. And he was describing this it's a term of art, right? It's just the way the city managing government kind of folks have called it. And I'm like, yeah, inherently, that's just going to be a terrible thing for us to go to the public with. So we'll definitely figure out what we want to be able to do. One of the things that I'd invite you to do is think, so thank you to Commissioner Lizotte for the idea of Tom McHenry. But if there are other folks that you think we should be hearing from, other people that you think Lawrence should be in touch with, please submit the thinking around that, because I do think having testimony from past mayors or past city managers or staff or whoever we think would be helpful in understanding the history, so that we, from a historical perspective, would certainly help us to understand what to do or not to do, what we want to make sure we get, do we do better just from the information and history. I'd asked Lawrence to do his presentation tonight just to get us started in the work, right? I didn't want us to just talk about process all night, so I wanted us to start this inquiry together. And so I appreciate Lawrence's really putting together a very tight presentation for us. And now we've got to get more specific, even that, like some of you suggested around, okay, yeah, but how does this really work in San Jose? So we do have more homework to do on the history side, just to fill in the really what is the current state of the art coming up to the present. We will get to the pros and cons and the pluses and minuses and all that. That will be part of a lot of our conversation. Eventually, I think getting into a chart would be awesome, because then we could all crystallize that and see it, and be really helpful to others. And the last thing I would say is that one of the challenges that we will really have to think about is how much is enough, right? At what point do we say, we've heard from other cities, we've gotten testimony from individuals, we've understood from the academics, we've heard a lot of the material, and when do we say, bastante? When are we okay with, wow, we've heard enough, and now we want to move into this next phase of really starting to get into the weeds. So just keep that in mind around when will you be at your place that you're ready to move to the next piece. And I'd like to get us in consensus around that after we've gotten into this for a while and really start our inquiry. I'm going to ask that, do we have any members of the public, Tony, that want to address us on the presentation we just heard? And the other thing was the questions around the further questions about the presentation. The presentation will get posted after tonight, and other further questions certainly can go to Tony, and we will continue to, you'll see how this comes back into the next presentations as we continue to look at the charters. And I was asking for a kind of a common vocabulary, kind of a common starting point for us, but there's definitely a lot of good questions that we still need answers to. So if members of the public have questions that they want addressed, they certainly can send those to Tony as well. And any commissioners that after you've read it, you're like, oh, I forgot this, please send that to Tony so that can inform our work going forward. So Tony, is there any members of the public that wish to address the commission on the presentation on the history and the definitions of our charter?
Yes, I currently have 4 people with their hands up. The first is Alina Yin.
Thank you.
Hello, Fred and Lawrence. I'm sorry, but I think you could have done a better job at setting this commission and the public up for success. You moved the City Charter 101 ahead of schedule, no notification. You listed a number of sections that nobody had time to read, meaning it isn't exactly fair, inclusive, or transparent, meaning no one had time to prepare informed questions and have a more meaningful dialogue. Also, these 2 operating governance systems are from a post-2020 world, which, as exampled by what has happened last year with COVID and the Black Lives Matter protests, and right now, neither system, which I believe in California is San Diego, LA, SF, and Oakland, I believe, is currently faring any better than the other systems. So should we really be perpetuating the same old broken systems? Maybe we should be looking at an entirely new system altogether and setting a new precedent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. I thought that last comment, public comment, was really interesting. And, you know, if that, I think it was worth considering. And that's the whole point of public comment is for us to, is for yourselves as a body to really take in what the public is trying to ask about and their contribution. So thank you for that last public comment. It was really nice to hear. There seems to be several persons of this commission who are interested in different variations of how things can work, and for the future of this program. And I think it's an important concept for myself too. And to do it with the idea of an equity lens is really important, I feel, and how. For my own self, there's an important purpose of how to address the future of the city manager. And that doesn't have to necessarily mean that a strong mayor takes over all of that responsibility. It can be a responsibility that can be passed along to the council as well, to address city manager things. I think to me, the major concern is how to deal with the future power of the city manager. So there's just a bunch of variations on how we move forward, and thank you that was mentioned. And that's the kind of things that I really hope we're open to, and learn to talk about more. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Tessa Woodmansey.
Thank you very much. Well, the whole history of this event really starts with Mayor Liccardo and COVID-19, that he wanted more power to deal with COVID-19, the way he wanted to deal with it. And that's why he wants to have a strong mayor policies because of COVID-19. And like Barbara Marshman, I think, said, that it's the politicalization. This is the issue. Do we want the politics to be running our city? And that's where Mayor Liccardo came in. He wanted to have the businesses and the developers and the builders to start doing the inspections. He wanted inspections to go, even in the middle of COVID-19, which our leadership at the staff level said no. Our building code enforcement and planner, Rosalind Huey, said no, because she was protecting the people. Mayor Liccardo, in his politicalization, is protecting business, because those are the ones who fund his campaigns. And he wanted that to go forward, the inspections. And he wanted one throat to choke, is what they say. The businesses want one throat to choke. They want to go to the mayor and say, fix this for us, and make the inspections go. So this is the politicalization, where the businesses and corporations start ruling the way things go, and it's not for the public and the public health, because it was public health that was keeping the inspectors out of the inspection of building. But Mayor Liccardo wanted it to start to go forward because he was serving his masters, which is the businesses and corporations. So this is the threat that we are having to deal with, is to have a strong mayor. This is the example of what has happened and why he wants a strong mayor. So the businesses want a strong mayor. Like I say, one throat to choke. They can go to the mayor, say, do this for us. And he tried to do that, but he didn't have the power. So now he wants the power. So this is the threat of too much politicalization of how we're running our city.
Thank you, Tessa. Next speaker, please.
Sorry, Carol Watts.
Yes, hello. My name is Carol Watts, and I'm president of the League of Women Voters of San Jose, Santa Clara. For your information, our nonpartisan organization is currently conducting a study of local governance in San Jose by reviewing our current position related to the form of government. This position was last updated in 1986, the year the current charter was adopted after work by the previous Charter Review Commission. To see an overview of our study, including our current position, please visit our website at lwvsjse.org.
going to be involved and then studies. Our positions are nonpartisan, designed to address both current and long-term needs of the community. Before deciding to make any changes to our position statements, we are reviewing a broad range of published research on the subject, conducting interviews with academics, individuals who have government experience, and others with pertinent information and perspectives to share. And we're also examining the pros and cons of many different approaches to city governance. Sound familiar? After our study results are presented to our membership at a special meeting for discussion and consensus, any changes to our current position will be presented to our membership again for approval at our annual business meeting in early June. League members are signing up to attend each of your meetings as observers. We in the League agreed it's very important for you to engage the public in a meaningful manner. We encourage you to do special outreach to the community so that they're aware of your work and your schedule. We're pleased you're planning just special meetings for broader public discussion to allow for more than these 1 or 2 minute statements. Thank you for your important work to determine what, if any, changes should be made to our form of government that best supports all residents as elected officials come and go. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, Tony? Final speaker?
Sorry, that's the final speaker.
Thank you. Okay. Any final comments from any commissioners before we move to adjourn? I'm sorry, I have one more public comment to do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is open forum.
Yeah. So
for items not already on the agenda.
Right, I'm sorry. But I was going to ask if there's any commissioners that had final comments before we move to the public comment.
Lon has his hand up.
Lon?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm sorry, this is a bit disorienting for me coming from council meetings into a commission setting. It's a bit more casual, and I don't want to confuse you with parliamentary procedure. But I do have to ask, in regards to like in regards to the Brown Act and such, it would be helpful to me, just as a commissioner, to be able to either have some sort of decision points to wrap my head around going into each meeting, to think of it in advance, not just reading and then watching presentations, but to one of the public commenters' points, to the extent that we're voting on anything, and I don't think we voted on anything of consequence tonight that would have to be publicly noticed, but I know that, you know, as a governing body, if we were to make some sort of decision one way or the other, if the Mark or Tony or somebody could weigh in and let me know, like what really needs to be publicly noticed, or if our decisions are not so weighty, it's not wrong that we move agenda items back and forth because it's just an ongoing discussion. And so that's more casual and more flowy and perhaps gives us more space. But the flip side of that is if we're going to be making decisions on, I don't know, like what's good, what's bad, or we're going to write a 10-page memo as opposed to a 50-page memo, like those type of things, whatever those decisions are, I think needs to be publicly noticed so the public can say, no, we want something longer or whatever. So I put that out there. And then secondly, in terms of if our deadline, our drop dead deadline is, I think, December 14th. I mean, I don't have a preference, but we could theoretically go to October, November. You know, that's potentially something we can roll with, but you know, how much do we want to give for our city in terms of our personal time? So just to wait out there, there's no real reason to end at July 26th then, if we have 6 months left. So thank you.
That's correct. Did I see any others?
Yeah, we have Magnolia, Ellie, and Veronica.
Great. Magnolia?
Yes, I would just encourage the League of Women Voters to send the public, as well as all of us, any information, any research that you gather. We of course would love, especially if you're putting money into all of your research and it's very thoughtful and you have speakers, of course we want to hear. I'm sure we all would want to hear, not just your final analysis, but all the different points. So I really hope that that input can get to us. I don't know how you would do it, through links maybe, and I mean the entire research that you do. I think it's wonderful, and thank you for telling us about it.
Hey, Ellie?
Thanks. I want to strongly agree with both Lun and Magnolia's comments, including Lun's comment about just the importance of public noticing. And towards that end, I heard the welcome for commissioners and the public to send questions about sort of San Jose Charter history, Charter 101, to Tony and Lawrence, and just wanted to find out what the deadline is for that, so that it, is done in time to really inform the next meeting and be properly noticed and everything like that. And then I have one other question as well after this answer.
I think that, you raise a really good question, Ellie, and I'd like to take some time to think about it to get us a real timeline answer. Because I think what we've got to do is spend some time with Tony to understand 5 days after a commission meeting, we will be open for this so that we have X amount of time. We've got to really figure out the timeline so that we are within the Brown Act in terms of noticing. So I'm going to defer that question to one that I'm going to get back to you on so that we can actually publish a questions are accepted 3 days after the commission. Responses will be at such and such a time, or they'll be, so that we're really accurate and so the public really does have a standard by which we'll work as a commission. Your second question?
That's great. Thanks for that. And just to be clear that it shouldn't stop anybody from submitting questions after that or raising them on the day of, but just what is going to be able to be prepared in advance and noticed and everything. And then the other is, I really appreciate the question about how can commissioners respond to what's raised in the public comment. I've been a member of the public 1,000 times more than I've been a commissioner and had the exact same question. So I would love to hear some thoughts on how we could do that in the process.
So I'll also defer that back to, I'll work with Tony on coming up with a response to that, because again, we want to make sure that we're in compliance with the Brown Act and not discussing items that are that have not been noticed properly. So again, I'll ask that we put something in writing back to commissioners so that we have some standing rules of what we're going to operationalize that. I had made note of both of those already, so I can I'll follow up. And then I'm sorry, Lawrence, was there one more?
Veronica.
Thank you.
Yes, great. Thank you. And I also do want to, the presentation was great, but please do add if there is going to be presentations or any kind of documentations just beforehand. I do like to review them and get my thoughts together before coming into like a 1-minute review. And also for the public, I also want to set, if we can move forward and set real times and not just one time of public hearing. I know that several of us advocated and have communicated that we want more than one public hearing, right? And I think it should be like an ongoing conversation and provided into different times. As we know, a lot of our communities work at different times of days. And so really providing that, and as well as when will language accommodations be put forward? Again, this meeting right now, currently, it's only offered in English. I really want to make sure that anybody that wants to participate in listening to this crucial and essential conversations are able to understand in their language that they prefer, and that anything put forward as we're looking at accessibility and being equitable, it's in their language preference. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments before we?
Yeah, Maria has her hand up.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes, sorry to belabor this point, but I really want to make sure that I understand when we are going to be opening up a process for the public. And I think that the sooner that we have a calendar that we maybe at our next meeting, because all of this takes time, to plan and organize, etc. But the sooner that we can have a draft of a calendar of what we're going to be calling our public engagement, public comment meetings and our schedule, the better, because I would appreciate having a discussion and time to respond to something specific. And then we agree whatever it is we decide to do, that is what we'll be doing, and that's what we publish as our process for community input and engagement.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I want to assure commissioners that I've heard you, I've written them down. We're going to respond, figure this out, and we'll bring stuff back for more of your comments and feedback. We're going to keep working at this till we get it to the place that we want it all. I want to ask now for any comments from the public on an item that's not on our agenda that you want to address the commission on. Tony, are there any speakers?
I so far have 2 hands up. The first is Tessa Woodmansey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tessa Woodmansey. I am the founder of my neighborhood association called the Garden Alameda Village Association. And my email is cleanairsj, like we need to have, breathe, but we don't have in San Jose, cleanairsj@gmail.com. And I say that because I find it a problem that we don't have a participant list, because actually the participants were so inspiring to me. The one woman who was talking about, I really would like to be able to contact her. And if there was a participant list where I can maybe text her and say, can I have your email? Because I love how you talked and what you said. That is how we create community. And we create, a consolidation of like-minded people. And so you're not providing that. And I think Ellie Matsumura said, and I think it got misunderstood what she was saying, is we need to respond to the public, not to each other. That's not what she said. How are we going to respond to the public? And I appreciate that's what she said, that she's been more public than she's been part of a commission. And we need that kind of feedback. And that got misunderstood. So we need to really work on that. How are we going to get our comments? How is the protocols of how these meetings are run going to be improved? Because they're not being improved. And so I guess I could call Tony and maybe she'll call me back. But the thing is, it's very difficult to deal with our government with COVID-19 in terms of that. And nobody calls back anymore. But I can't say that. Tony really did call back, and I loved her for that. And I'm not going to say anything bad about her. But she did call me. But, this way of how do we fix the way the meeting goes? Why don't we get a chat? Why don't we get the participant list? And, so we can know each other and connect. That's important. That's what builds community. And, we said the response back to the neighbors are very important. So in just getting the protocols.
Thank you. And next speaker.
Claire Beekman.
Hi, thank you for the meeting tonight. One of the commission persons mentioned to have a meeting schedule, I think, if that's what she said. I was just, as she was saying that, I was just looking at the memo, one of the memos of tonight's meeting, that on page 3 of a 5-page memo, it describes kind of a meeting schedule for this group. And through February, you have there's set items that you're going to be addressing that myself as a public can look at, like how cities like San Diego and Detroit work. Those are 2 meetings in February, but beyond February, it doesn't have much, it doesn't say much, but so that's maybe one thing. Another issue, it was mentioned that there's English only at this point, and that's a bit abhorrent, and I hope that really can be worked on. It's becoming kind of a point within San Jose city government to offer not only Spanish translation, but Vietnamese translation these days, which is really interesting and hopeful. And I hope that work can continue. And from that, to ask, there's Eritrean language in San Jose. There's several other languages in San Jose that really need to be a part of the council process always, and the government process. So good luck in the efforts to do that. And I wanted to conclude to thank yourselves for there's a lot of commissions going on right now around these issues, and there's a certain degree to stay in our lanes, but also to understand different things. And the strong mayor, it's a commission process that's been, every, 20, 30, 40 years, there's a public meeting process, and the council meeting process is always, selected and we've learned it's become a good thing, and I hope we can respect it this time around as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next speaker.
That was the final speaker.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. I will then ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Seconded.
A second. Thank you, Jose. All those in favor? Do we need to take a roll call vote, Tony?
No.
Okay. Opposed? Abstentions? And that carries. Thank you all for an excellent meeting, and I appreciate your time.
A reminder, if you want to just get a quick overview of the website, stay on. I'll start that in just a few minutes.
Thank you all.
Actually, probably less than a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so I'm going to just share my screen. We'll go over to the website, and I'm doing an actual share screen of not just the program. So starting with the main city website, that's the easiest place to start. You could either go to your government city, or which I apparently clicked on, go to the bottom where it says meeting agendas. So this meeting agendas will take you straight to the council agenda calendar. And this calendar has all of the upcoming meetings. We did have a major issue with Charter Review Commission not showing up under upcoming meetings.
Tony, we're seeing a white screen.
Okay, I'm going to stop share in case that's the issue.
It's still.
But it's frozen. Oh my God, my computer never freezes during a meeting.
It just did. It's loading, it says.
Video. Okay, are you guys still there?
Yes. Okay.
I'm going to stop my video because I think that might be causing the issue. I never freeze because I'm never on camera. It's not letting, I'm clicking stop video and it's just spinning. So talk amongst yourselves. This is still being recorded because I can't hit. Sorry, attendees. I've literally never had this happen at any meeting until I try to show.
Tony, do you want it just as an option if it doesn't come back online? Maybe we could have somebody else share a screen and you could just, tell us what to do. We could be like a human remote control for you.
We could do that. My hourglass just disappeared. Okay. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So internet connection's unstable, so I'm moving you over to my backup network because I do have 2 networks at home just in case things like this happen. Okay, so I'm on the other network, so we should be good. Okay, so when you click meeting agendas, it takes you, it has all the meetings that are coming up. We had a big issue with Charter Review Commission. For some reason, it was not showing up under upcoming meetings. It took me until Thursday working with the company that's our vendor to get it moved over into upcoming meetings. But another place is you can go down all meetings, and you can do this. This is not just for Charter Review. This is for all council meetings. So under all meetings, you can select exactly what you want to see. So if you want to see what's coming up with the Arts Commission, you could just check Arts Commission and it'll take you to whatever they have coming up. So Charter Commission is here. So if you want to look at this 2 days from now, it's a Charter Commission won't be showing up under upcoming meetings. You can go down here. You can change the time frame. I do get quite a few emails per week, the first week of a month or the last week of a month that says, hey, I can't find the agenda for next week. And it's because what they have is maybe this week showing, and it won't show anything for next week. So we'll get a lot of, I get emails all the time about that. So from here, you can click meeting details or agenda. If you click meeting details, which is how I view it, you can go to all agenda items and it shows all the different line items. Or if you only want to see items that have documents attached, you would check legislation only. And a simpler way is to just view the agenda PDF. A lot of people choose to just do the PDF. So the PDF has, you know, the call to order, the public record, it has all the things in order, the different materials. Now I'm not going to include these reading material ones next week because I'll show you on the Charter Review website that reading material is posted elsewhere. I wanted to carry it forward for those people who haven't seen the new website. And then here's, you know, another file, and the next meeting date is on here, but people can click all the links using the PDF agenda. That's why a lot of people choose to use it. I just choose to do it this way because I'm used to it. I'm in so many meetings and looking at so many agendas, it's quicker for me to go this way. So the other place to go from our homepage, if you go to the city clerk's website, you'll see Charter Review over here on the left. If you click on Charter Review, it has what your purpose is. It has a link to the official roster. If you click the official roster, it takes you here. So anybody can see who the members are. And it has their city issued email. I'm not sure if Joy has worked with all of you on getting access to those city issued emails. It does usually take us a little time because it's a little bit complicated. But these are how the public can email you directly. I will continue to use your personal emails, but I will also, just to make sure you see things, but I'll also start using this once Joy confirms everybody has had access to it.
And we cannot email back, right? Because that would be a Brown Act violation.
You can email me. You just can't reply all.
No, but if members from the public email us at our city issued email addresses, we can't actually email back, correct?
Well, it depends. If it's just informational that says, yes, the next meeting is this date and time. But if they have questions and they want to get into a discussion, just check with me and then I'll check with the attorney's office on exactly what you're allowed to say with them. You are allowed to get input from the community and you're allowed to talk back to the community. So what you don't want is to transmit your opinion, but to get information from them and to give them information is acceptable. So also on here, I have the link to the agendas that I just showed you. That way somebody doesn't have to know to go to meeting agendas and go to Legistar calendar and all of that. I tried to make it as easy as possible. I have a city clerk YouTube channel. So I put the last meetings video up on YouTube. That actually takes some time because I have to process the meeting on my computer first, and then I have to process it on YouTube. So I can't post it until usually Thursday because I'm in council all day on Tuesday. I can't have my computer locked up in processing videos on Tuesdays and Wednesdays because of council and rules committee meetings. But I will do it as soon as possible. I'll start processing today's Zoom video before I go to bed. So tomorrow morning it'll be ready. And then if council doesn't go too late, I can post it to YouTube after council tomorrow, but they won't be immediate. And then a link to the live Zoom link. So I tried to make this as clear as possible to people. And then I include the basic meeting schedule. If you guys have call special study sessions or special public hearings, we'll add those on here, but these are the regular meetings. And then I'm also have commission documents. I put it here as well as over here. That way I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for people so they don't have to know to go over to the left menu.
Now, this where you are right now, this screen did not have the documents that we talked about today.
Those were linked to the agendas.
So I clicked on that and it didn't take me to the other site that actually had the documents.
Okay, so it should take you to Charter Commission, where the agenda would be here, and then the documents are attached on the agenda. So again, we pull up that PDF that I showed you.
Yep.
And then it had right here. That's why I want to go over this. I think a lot of people just didn't, you guys aren't used to doing this. So I wanted to go over this. What I'll do is I'll post like the work plan working documents on here as well. Now that you guys had action on it, that way people don't have to go digging through the agendas to find out what day did that actually happen. So I'll start putting them on here. The historical 1985 documents, I get requests for those like all the time. So I put them on here. These are the main ones. We have a bunch of other documents with rosters and things, but I didn't think that was as important as these three particular. And then these are those reading materials I attached on the last two meeting agendas. So you guys can always go back, and I'll click on that. You can always go back and see what the council did on those days. So
I'm so sorry to be asked again. So, you know, you were just, so this link here, if you click it, does it really, can you click that again? This, I wanted to see, okay.
Yeah.
When you click it, yours takes you to that, but for some reason mine doesn't. So that was my issue.
So maybe you and I should set up a one-on-one this week. That way you can share screen and in private, and we'll try to troubleshoot that.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for this tutorial.
Yeah.
And we're also gonna, I mean, one of the biggest questions in the work plan is what's our public engagement strategy? So if we need to do this, like how do you find us in our public forum, then we can do this, right? So we don't have to do it after the meeting. We can do it definitely during the meeting as part of our public engagement strategy, right? So I think to anyone, if people had a hard time, commissioners had a hard time getting into the meeting tonight. Okay.
That was an issue where there was another site that had the wrong meeting address. So I fixed it as fast as possible. I tweeted out the correct address. And that goes to, I told you we had the issues with Granicus and getting the agenda posted correctly. For some reason, it just charter review, maybe because it's a new commission, it was set up completely perfectly in the background on my side. As they went in and fixed it, I think they pulled forward the old meeting address. So we did get that fixed. The correct address was on this website. This is the website I'm pushing to everybody on Twitter and Facebook and to council members, because I feel like this is the clearest place to send people versus sending them to the Legistar calendar where they have to go to the agenda and then they have to come back over here to see the roster. I wanted one central spot for people.
Right, so just a how-to will be part of what we put out in public as well. So,
right.
You know, literally, if you Google San Jose, commission, charter commission, what happens, and literally walk through people so they have a step-by-step. Otherwise, it's easy when you know how to do it, but it's not.
Right.
So I think that'll be just part of our instructions to part of our public engagement. It's like literally, how do you do that? And I assume we're just going to spend commission time walking through that so everybody gets the information.
Right. And this is being recorded, so I can include this in the video. So people who watch the video on YouTube stay till the end of the video and continue to watch this. They'll also see the walkthrough. They'll also see the little glitch with me freezing on the computer because I don't know how to edit that out.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So I just think those are the kinds of things that we just real practical tools of how literally do you do this. There's so many attachments. To me, that's confusing, right? So historically archiving and organizing, like you have on this page makes all the sense in the world, but getting the attachments super clear on the agenda, so you're really seeing item by item and just really, crystal clear of how you find the documents. Otherwise, it becomes overwhelmed, right? So let's just try to figure out all the ways we can make it super simple, as clear as possible. And I love the organizational way that you put this page together, but you have to know it's under the city clerk, right?
Right.
It's just a little, so let's figure out ways to make this happen and figure this out. So I really appreciate everyone's diligence on this, and I pledge to really work hard to figure all these things out and make them work. We really want to be a model commission.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just want to quickly say thank you to Magnolia for, consistently raising the questions about how we can communicate with the public. And so I think one of the things we decided tonight is that we'll get a little further training on that at our next meeting. So that'll be really helpful as well. And thanks in advance to those who will be involved with that.
Yeah, I definitely think we need to, it's going to be really unsatisfying for us to sit and listen and not respond in any form. So we know the regulation, we know the law, and now we've got to figure out, in the spirit of the law, how will we better to be more responsive to the public.